See, it says theme from Psalm 85:6. Let's read that together. Will you not revive us again, so that your people may rejoice in you? There's a scripture from the book of Proverbs, which is very familiar. Where there is no vision, the people perish. And I have been sensing that we've either lost our vision or are floundering a little bit in Morning Psalm. So I thought it would be good to go to the roots of what was it that gave impetus for Morning Psalm being formed. And Claire's going to share that vision and then kind of give us a historical outline of the group.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to go back to the beginning. And the beginning, I think, occurred in 1993 when Guy Wampler went to annual conference. And that 1993 conference, which I was not in attendance at, but he came back from, Guy Wampler was our senior pastor at that time. He came back from that conference. He was very excited because the youth played a major role in that conference, and he was very excited about the youth involvement and the potential for unchurched people coming into church growth into the Brethern Church, and he talked to some folks there at our church, and the result was that Millie Bomberger and Gladys Arnold set up a committee in late 1994 to look at contemporary worship. And I'm not too sure that I, up to that point, had ever volunteered to do anything. But, yeah, I mean, I did a lot, but I just never said, yeah, I'll join you in that effort. But there was something that spoke to me about some of the ideas that were being talked about, and it was the idea that there's a lot of people in our society today that do not feel comfortable in the traditional church setting, and so maybe would likely not darken the doors of a traditional church setting. And what can we do as the church about that? So I called Millie and I said, I'd like to volunteer to be on that committee. And she said, what? And so, we met and talked about contemporary worship and some ideas about how it might look and how we might go about doing this. And long and short, September of 1995, we had our first service in the chapel. With a real ragtag group of people that had no clue what we were doing.
Guess who ran the sound?
Nor was the audio person.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Gladys's daughter was a keyboardist, and Millie on her own went out and bought the sound system. That cart portable sound that we used in last week's service. Well, the mixer was what she bought. The speakers that are back in the storage room are the ones that she bought. I had a company custom make that cart that everything is in, and there's a whole bunch of us really got involved in this effort. And by Easter, we were packing out the chapel. And of course, the first few weeks we kind of packed it out because everybody just wondered what in the world these people are doing and how are they going to destroy our environment. So anyway, so Easter service then of 1996, we moved the service to the sanctuary and never left until I guess it was maybe 2001 when we moved to Family Life Center, and we've been in Family Life Center ever since. We've had our ups and downs over the years. There's been a lot of people. At one time we had as many as 4 worship teams. And Lisa, remembers that. Lisa also remembers being called to that ministry. Jim Heck played a major role in bringing Lisa out of her shell, right?
It's true. I can't argue with anything you're saying. Never sung before anything like that.
And she was not the only one. There's numerous people were called into ministry both at Lancaster, and some who have left and gone on to other churches and taken ministry of music and worship with them to other church environments. And so over the years, that part of it's been very inspirational to me. It's also been very inspirational to me to see, people being comfortable, being able to walk into a worship service and not feeling like, they couldn't come as they are. One of our goals earlier on was to, while maintaining all of the elements of worship, such as Bible reading and prayer and offering and all of that, was incorporate, not necessarily doing things in a certain order, but always maybe having a little bit of a surprise. So even to this day, and also it's not about us. So, we kind of adopted right from the beginning that we weren't going to put our names in the bulletin because it's not about us. It's about, it is you. It's about God. We don't have a formal liturgy like the traditional service has. And a lot of people like that, the liturgy and knowing, but that, we didn't see that as part of contemporary worship. So by November of 95, we developed this vision for worship. I like to just run through it so that you can get some sort of sense about what was in our minds as we began contemporary worship. And it wasn't called Morning Psalm at that time. It was called, Morning Psalm got its name
Later. When it
Yeah,
like 5,
maybe,
because I was on the team by then, so 5-6 years later.
Yeah. The name Morning Psalm wasn't adopted until maybe 99 or 2000.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so what we said was our mission is to bring spiritual reality into the life of each person as they participate in corporate worship. We desire that every person, both believer and seeker, have a living encounter with Jesus Christ as they worship. Corporate worship is at the core of our life as a church. Therefore, we will diligently plan worship that will seek to please God first. Be committed to excellence in all we do. Be Great Commission driven, creating a worship environment to which we will want to bring on church friends and to which they will want to return. Examples: use words that are understood by all. Provide a balance of traditional and contemporary praise music to appeal to different preferences. Welcome visitors and personal greetings. Be thoroughly biblical in all we do. Be practical in order to help people in their daily lives. Integrate worship forms with a strong emphasis on praise. Integrate various forms such as drama, art, banners, bulletins, and music to bring worshipers closer to God. Praise songs during gathering time help break down barriers and focus attention on God. Allow the entire congregation to participate. Examples: hymn and praise singing, responsive scripture readings, serving each other in communion. Be bold, innovative, sensitive, reverent, relaxed, and joyful, open to creative ideas, new or traditional, flexible and patient, and build up the body of Christ, surrounded by prayer as the Holy Spirit meets us each week. To accomplish this vision, a worship planning team will intentionally craft worship events to be thematic and authentic. The worship music ministry will constantly evaluate and seek always to be improving. Our desire is that all our worship, both corporate and individual, will give blessing and honor and glory and power to Him who sits on the throne. Having been involved since 1995 with contemporary worship, I just can't convey, it's hard to convey to you the number of people and the amount of work and effort that has gone into contemporary worship at Lancaster Church of the Brethern. We've had times of trial, times of discouragement, and we've also had many times of joy and inspiration and gratitude, and many times where we've seen God work in very definite and powerful ways, both in worship and at board. It has not been without conflict. There's been heavy conflict over the 24 years. But it didn't stop contemporary worship, and I think the entire congregation at Lancaster Church is better for it. And hearts have, we witnessed hearts being changed. It's just been an extraordinary experience. And so I think that, knowing where it's sometimes I think it's really hard to move forward or to make plans to move forward if you don't know where you've been. Will we repeat some of the mistakes of the past? Sure. We're human. We do that. But I think as long as we take some time and refocus our energies, refocus on God and our real mission. And as you can tell from this vision for worship in 1995, this started out as a ministry, and over the years, that's what appealed, I think, to most of the participants of the worship team, whether it be singers or tech people or people setting up tables, chairs, whatever was needed. It was that call to ministry of morning psalm worship that appealed to people. And I think, it does us all well to keep that in our minds and hearts as we move along.
Any questions or comments you want to make for Claire? There's a scripture that says, "Now there arose a new king in Egypt who knew not Joseph." And the context of that is that Egypt had a different view of the Jews because they didn't have that history, that historical connection with Joseph. And so while we can't live in the past, I think it's important for us to know where our roots are, because I think once we know where our roots are, it helps us to be stronger in our outreach. And some of the things that I think come out of this vision statement that really spoke to me is that, of course, the first thing is to seek to please God, but also the fact that there is kind of an evangelistic component on this. It was to reach people. This was not just to give Lancaster Church of the Brethern an alternative worship. I think the idea was to bring people to Christ, to invite them to church, to have something that would maybe speak to them that they wouldn't necessarily get in the traditional worship. So I see that all coming here. And I would just be curious to know, how many of you have this, or have known about this?
I've seen this before. I don't think I have it somewhere.
Okay, so maybe one person in the group. And I think when we lose our bearings, then we don't know kind of where we're going. So I thought it was really important for us to at least have this here. Not to say that this is exactly where we are and it can't change. What we want to look at is say, are there some things we need to be looking at to address our current context? You know, some of these things may still be valid and very good. Maybe things we want to change, maybe things we want to add to our vision. And that's some of what I hope will happen over the course of time. But I thought it was important there. In 2013, should I go on, Claire?
Yes.
In 2013, the group engaged the services of Dave Helmuth. Anybody remember him? Okay. And I've been in conversation with Dave. I've employed him here as a consultant at Lititz Church. He helped us for 6 months to a year to work with our worship team. And I want to say this, that you were very instrumental, Lancaster Church, in launching the contemporary worship here. Because when we started talking contemporary, we were like Lancaster, had one traditional service, and very traditional, big choir. They had just sung the Vivaldi Gloria in Latin. So, like very traditional. And when we started talking contemporary, our people didn't know what we were talking about. So we invited about 6 different groups to come in over the course of the summer and lead a contemporary service. And you were one of those. You came here, and that was back in it would have been probably about the year 2000, around in there.
I don't remember who else was with us.
I think I did.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
you
I
were
was here
too.
for that. I remember being at Payne Life Center for something. It must have been that.
Did Doug roar drum?
Yes.
Okay, so was you and I, the drummer, was anybody else singing?
Probably Jamie.
What about Sue?
Jamie.
Yeah.
Sue
Was
probably.
Sue still
I
there?
would think Linda used to.
I don't know.
Houston, probably you and
Not-
Houston.
Because she was also worship leader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she
Great
was.
worship.
Yes.
So we wanted to present a variety of styles and things. So by bringing 6 different groups in, we thought that would give us a good taste. So we brought John Fry and Calvary Church. They were here. You guys are here. I think we had the group from Chickies actually come in and lead worship. I can't remember who the others were. I think maybe Ephrata. Anyway, we just felt we wanted to give people an idea of what it is we were talking about. Like you said, what is contemporary worship? People didn't have a clue here what we were talking about. And so that started us off here. So you guys had a very important part in the Lititz church. And then several years later, we felt we needed some outside help to help bolster what we were doing and move us forward. So we employed Dave Helmuth as a consultant to come in and help the worship team look at all aspects of it, the music, the worship style, the setting, even the times of worship, which that was an incredible thing. We debated more on the times of worship than we did on a $4 million addition to this building. Yeah, that went through quicker than the times of worship.
I wrote the
Yes.
history.
People
I
don't,
wrote the history
don't
of
want you
this.
to mess with the time
They don't.
Yeah.
What
We
about-
learned that.
We had 3 committees that were formed and dismissed.
Oh,
And
geez.
finally, the board said, this is what we're going to do, and we're not taking it to a vote. This is it.
Good for them.
You should have done that.
So what we have is a 9 o'clock traditional service and a 9:15 contemporary. And that's early. So the 2 services are concurrent. They're in rooms that adjoin, so we had to soundproof it so that the sound doesn't bleed through. And the sermon is early. One pastor does the preaching. Sermon is early in the traditional, and as soon as you're done preaching, take off the tie and coat, come over here and preach a contemporary
Excellent.
service. Exact same sermon.
Excellent.
Now, the service ends at 10:15 for the traditional. They come to the fellowship hall, and there's continental breakfast every Sunday. Table set up, over 100 people come there. Then at 10 o'clock, because that starts at 9 and goes to 10. They go over for breakfast, so that holds them for a little bit. And then at 10:15, the contemporary service lets out, and they come for breakfast. So everybody is together until 10:30, and then Sunday school begins. 10:30 to 11:30 is when Sunday school. And this is a big Sunday school church. If you haven't noticed, there's 10 adult Sunday school classes. All this is all adult wing. Everything here is adult Sunday. The children are in another part of the building. So these are all adult Sunday school rooms. So the idea that Sunday school was very important and very much a key of who we are was very important. But that worship time enabled us to do it. Now that was different because Sunday school used to precede worship. So this was a big change to have Sunday school at the end. So we really juggled things around. And it's been that way now for several years. I think everybody's afraid to say, can we try something different? Because we know how long it took to get there. So anyway,
Well, the original contemporary service was at 8:30. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was
And-
great.
and-
You could go to.
And that's
couple
early for
services.
contemporary. We
Yeah,
debated that,
but
and we
that's
said
when it
that's
was
too
the
early. If we want
best.
young families, that's too early. That's why
That's
we,
one of the reasons we changed it.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
difficult time for young
And
families.
it did very well though.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Because
But-
it was new.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's,
Yeah. But anyway, so we employed David Homeless to come here, and then I found out in the course of my conversation with Dave, because I was talking to him about maybe helping us here, and so he said, I was there in 2013, so he's already had a little bit of input here. And then he said, this is a little bit of a summary of what he observed. This is 2013. The question was, how do we lead forward? What roles are needed each week? What is the role of the worship leader? Choosing songs, verbal transitions, working with the pastor. Then what's the role of the band leader? Arranging songs, musical transitions, communication. Could be the same person or two. The big question is, what causes stress at our rehearsals? That was the big question back in 2013. Lack of clarity on how to do the song, the charts, the keys that don't work, people not knowing the music. So, how can we do things in a way that lets the heart shine through? What is the heart behind what we do? 3 things that we need. Clear communication. How will we know what we're doing? Clear leadership. Who is responsible for what? Clear purpose. Why do we do what we do? So that was some of his summary notes from 2013. Kind of interesting. Then Dean emailed me something that I hadn't seen either, and you probably have, but even Claire and Merle weren't quite sure they remembered this. And these are things that you came up for 2016. You remember these? Again, things we need to keep before us, I think. So let's just look at that for a moment. 9 things were shared as goals for 2016. So this must have been done in 2015 or at the beginning of 2016. Have a youth Sunday. Once a month, have the youth involved in part of morning psalm service. Now, obviously, that means you have youth that are around and can do it. I mean, obviously, if you don't have youth, then you don't have, so. Praise Kids Sunday. Once a month, have the Praise Kids team involved in a part of morning psalm service. And I think that we are doing now. A theme Sunday. Months with 5 weeks, maybe have one be an acoustic Sunday, another flashback, 60 Sunday. In other words, have different musical styles on different Sundays of the month to represent a bigger picture rather than always the same style is what I'm reading there. An all request Sunday, and I think Albie did that last year with passing out a sign. What are some of your requests that you would like to see? In other words, soliciting.
Actually, I did that in anticipation of Music Sunday.
Yeah,
For this
Yeah.
year.
it's done for Music Sunday,
Yeah.
yes.
Still, I just put the one out for this year.
Yeah, so that is something we enacted here. A sheet of songs and blank lines for congregation. Enter songs they'd like to hear during a service. Again, soliciting involvement from the congregation in what are some songs they like. Now we all know Shirley Fry. She's always going to say
Days of Elijah.
Days of Elijah. Yeah,
Jim
Yeah.
Peck's always gonna say, "As the deer."
yeah. So that is her song. And then 5 is mashup. A combination of songs, examples, I guess, of putting some things together. Dean, I'm not exactly sure. Like, trying to, I guess,
We actually did the first one as
Yeah.
a flash mob thing,
okay,
where the youth came up and were singing with us.
okay,
So we put the 2 songs together and did like alternate verses.
okay. I see.
That
what
worked
you-
very nicely.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
So, yeah, I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that, but that sounds like an interesting idea,
So
so,
it's like a medley.
yeah.
You're combining
You want-
2
yeah,
songs into
back
one
and forth,
piece of
yeah.
music.
Okay, mentoring. Invite youth and other interested people to sit and learn how to operate lights, sound, media. I think, we've not been doing a lot of that right now in terms of recruitment, because it seems like we have the same people doing it and not a lot of other people trained. It makes me nervous some Sunday if Merle and Joanne get sick, what are we gonna do today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We just need a broader
Well,
base.
there are some people that know how to run it, they don't necessarily know how to put it
Yeah.
together, like Jess can run it.
Okay.
Doug can run it,
But some training, I
Yeah.
think, of
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
more, I think that's something we need to
and I
focus
think
on.
Jeff, I don't know if you've worked with Jeff yet
Not
or
yet,
not,
we can't get a Saturday together,
Okay.
so.
Well, anyway,
Well, and I'd like to learn a little bit about the lights, not necessarily the whole,
Yeah.
or the
Well,
sound.
cross-training,
Yeah,
obviously,
some
would be
cross-training.
very helpful, yeah. So, anyway, that's something I think we really could do. Guest music, have other church members, a youth group, other members, maybe Maranatha, maybe present some other things like song and dance. I don't know if you've done any creative dance or things.
Yeah,
Many
we've
years
done that,
ago.
yeah.
But, you know what I mean, I haven't seen a lot of variety in that since I've been here at least.
And we did a lot
What
of
do you think?
skits over the years, because we learned it really
Yeah.
late.
And again, you know, we've done some, but not a lot. Then the JMTV, Jesus Messiah TV set
I
up
had
stage
that.
like a talk show. Not exactly sure what all this means.
I had that in mind with Matt, because he's such an expert with the video.
Okay,
We could actually do it like a little TV show.
okay. So have your worship like you have a guest.
Yeah, like you could be one of the persons up there being interviewed by the moderator or
Okay.
whatever,
So just a
Yes.
different way of doing.
and the band would be like the house band.
Yeah, yeah. Doc's having some.
That would be cool with live
Uh,
streaming.
yeah,
That would tie in a little bit with your performances of people.
yeah. The monologues.
You've done it similar, yeah.
Yeah. And then a flash mob performance, and again, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but what does that mean?
was like the "Put a Little Love in Your Heart, Open Your Eyes." We had them start singing from the audience and come up on the stage.
Oh, okay.
So we had a whole group actually come out of the audience.
Yeah, okay.
Congregation.
So they knew ahead of time who they were, but
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of a.
Well, you
Right.
rehearse it.
Yeah,
Flash
yeah.
mob, people go out and do stuff like that
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
like
they
shopping
just-
malls.
Yeah,
They
I've done the
also
flash
they-
mob
yeah.
thing with
That kind
the
of,
Messiah downtown Lancaster, but okay, I see what that means. I wasn't exactly sure what you meant. But anyway, I just thought again, it's just good to have some historical stuff. I mean, this stuff has been around, and yet, how many of
We
you?
forget,
Yeah.
we forget.
So it's just good to have some reminders of those types of things. So those are some of the things I wanted to share with you regarding that. Now, there are some projections that I would like to put before you today, and then get some of your input in just a few moments. The first one is regarding pastoral prayers. Don and I have been talking about this, and one of the things that we would like to change in Morning Psalm is that the main prayer will be done by the pastor. And before that will be a sharing of joys and concerns. Now that doesn't mean you guys can't pray. You can have a prayer at the beginning, you have a prayer at the offering, you can pray. But we're feeling the main prayer should be done by the pastor because we know what the concerns are in the congregation and can include those in the prayer and in the world. And sometimes I've sensed when you're praying, you don't know all those things. And we haven't had a sharing of joys and concerns. Since I've been here, we've been doing that in the traditional service. You know, so we're actually sharing more personal stuff in the traditional than you are in the contemporary round. That's kind of odd, but that's what is happening. And I want to see that happen in contemporary. I think we need more of a sharing time. And the sharing time mostly in traditional is me sharing what are the concerns. You know, I'll say, well, you know, turn the back of your bolt and here's some updates, you know, that type of thing. Yeah, Dean.
Well, I'm participating with United Methodists over in Columbia, and the way they do it is they have a basket where people put on the cards at the beginning,
Prayer concerns.
and then the pastor gets those, so when it comes up to rejoice and concerns, he's got everything instead of waiting for
And
somebody
that's
to
nice,
say
because
something.
not everyone's comfortable.
Right, yeah.
verbally
Now do they read them or they just pray over them?
No, they actually read some of the
Because
concerns.
sometimes it's a little difficult if people are writing to figure out what's.
Yeah.
And I'm a little uncomfortable with that too, because sometimes people may put something on there that they don't want you. For instance, there's somebody in our church right now who's going through some health crisis. He says, I really don't want anybody to know about this. There are a few people that know it, they might write it down, and then I share it, and I feel, I didn't want that, you know what I mean?
And that's where you
have to be careful.
yeah. you
I
have to be-
remember I was leading worship at the Ephrata Church, and they were on the radio. And they wanted me to get prayer concerns and share those. I said, you know what? I said, I'm not comfortable doing this. I said, this is going out over the radio, and there may be people not comfortable about this. I said, I absolutely will not do that. I just felt very uncomfortable, you know. And so we have to be sensitive
Yeah.
to where people are. I mean, some people are, yeah, you know, I'm having my tooth pulled. Please mention in church, okay, you know. And other people are having cancer surgery. Don't tell anybody. So I mean, we are constantly as pastors, you know, in that. So we always say, is it all right for us to share with, to put it on the prayer line, because I think we need to be sensitive to people's needs. But I'm afraid if we just do that, some people may write something down that they know about somebody that they don't want shared.
We might, if you were gonna do that for people that didn't feel comfortable saying out loud, you
Yeah.
could offer that as an alternative, but maybe with a caveat that if you're gonna write it down, it needs to be something that's a personal thing
personal
and
thing,
not
not
something
That's a
about
good
someone
idea.
else.
Yeah, that's a good
There's
idea,
probably
yeah.
ways to address
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Specify what,
That way they're sharing something that they're okay with it being shared, they just don't wanna
That's
say.
a great idea.
yeah,
Okay, I like that
You
idea.
just need to put parameters on it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, maybe there's even 2 colors of paper, or something that would be like, so that if you did have a prayer concern that you wanted prayed over, but
But not spoken.
not
And
specifically, right, then you would have those, let's pray over these that we're not able to mention, but we know that there's concerns. I mean, if you saw a basket that was piled up full of stuff, you'd be like, oh my gosh, there's really a lot to
you
pray
can't read
about.
them, you can't always read
Right,
them all,
and,
yeah.
but it would, maybe there's a
And
way
I
to
agree with
incorporate it.
legibility.
Well, I would,
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna
because
say.
running
When
the
I
off,
had to read
Yeah.
people visiting, it was hard because some of those names were different, so I thank the pastors for eliminating that.
Yeah.
because it was.
That would be my concern, I think, that
The
people, I mean, if everybody's handwriting is like mine, you've heard of people who speak in tongues, I write in tongues. It needs, it needs, interpretation. So I don't know, and I think the worst thing would be to stumble over something.
Newsletter saying, Joy's concerns, let us know. I
Yeah.
think you need to remind people about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe the way to start, and I do like the idea if it's a personal concern, or if we would say, write on here and we'll just pray over them. If people aren't comfortable
Yeah.
sharing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might be a way to, and I'm a little, like I say, hesitant to read off. But, and again, I don't want this to be a time that, I've seen some churches where they'll spend I was at a Mennonite church preaching one time, and they spent 20 minutes of sharing. And it was very uncomfortable because, somebody said, oh, we were at Joe's house last night. All of a sudden the congregation just burst out in laughter. I thought, who's Joe? What's so funny? It made me feel like a real outsider because I didn't get the inside joke. You know what I mean? And so I
There's
think,
another way too, it would
Yeah,
be
go ahead.
like if you had a group of people that would be your prayer team, and they would receive the papers after the service, or during the service, and when they're collected, and they go off and pray during the service.
yes.
I've seen that done too at other services, where there's a prayer team and they're praying over these things during the service.
Well, when we started there's a prayer room right next door, maybe you noticed that. And when we started contemporary service, we had a group of people praying during the service for the service. That's what they were doing in the prayer room. Yeah, there was a group of about 5 that were a prayer team.
So then they missed the service.
They did. Now they
Well,
weren't
went
there
to a
every.
Well, I know too many that would wanna go out in.
Yeah. Well, and they
But
weren't
then
necessarily the
maybe
same ones
group,
every week.
yeah.
They could vary, or they could get to the other service.
And the morning prayer group does a fantastic job
Yeah.
of praying too.
Yes, the Wednesday morning.
Yes.
They really do, and there's a great opportunity for sharing joy. Anyway, the point is that Don and I think, feel, and Don, you can chime in here, that we definitely want to do the pastoral prayer, and coupled with sharing joys, and it may vary. Some weeks I'm not comfortable, I think, in the traditional service, just saying who has something you want to share. Number one, it's such a big space, it's hard to hear. You need the microphone. I think if we would do that in contemporary, we wouldn't necessarily have to have the microphone, you know what I mean? It's I don't know, I
It
guess.
helps though.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes some people don't speak.
Yeah, even
up.
if it's a small room. So I don't know if how we're gonna do that, and Don and I may vary that.
I'm not a huge fan of prayer concern.
Opening it up.
worship, just because I think generally about 3/4 of the stuff that's shared is shared in stuff that's too long and often of not of general interest, and I've never found that very meaningful.
And some people will share every week something. It's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
obligated, I gotta share. You gotta know my life.
It's the same people over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll tell you a funny
Well,
story.
it's hard to get them started sometimes too.
Yeah.
The first one's always.
Yeah.
tough.
And I'll tell you a funny story at Highland Avenue Church. Nancy Faust, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, Con Rosenberger's sister, she taught worship. Anyway, she said they had an open time at Highland Avenue, and she said there was one older guy, she said that his was always a prayer concern, more in the form of a gripe. You know what I mean? It was something negative,
You don't have rights on it.
And yeah, there we go.
Sunday.
What's your
I haven't
Everybody
had
get
it
it off
yet.
your check.
Well, we have to close at 11:15. Anyway, no, so anyway, what we did was,
You wouldn't
she
just get it
she
out
said-
Sunday, right?
She said, I got so tired of hearing this person gripe every Sunday. She thought, she said it would make me angry when he get up, because he was something negative to share. She said, then I thought, the guy's a widower, he lost his wife, and he said, he probably doesn't have a lot going on in his life. She said, he probably doesn't know how he's coming off. So she said, I thought, before Love Feast, I really should get this resolved. So I went to him, she said, brother, she said, I hear you share every Sunday, but she said, I have to tell you how it's coming across. She said, it's coming across just very negative. She said, I don't know if you know that. She said, it would be nice if you could just share something, more positive, if you feel you want to share. So the next Sunday after Love Feast, he got up and he said, I have a wonderful joy to share. Nancy said, I couldn't believe it. I got through to him. He said, we had a wonderful Love Feast experience. He said, I thought it was just so meaningful. I just don't understand why more people don't come out. She said, I almost had it, but, he just couldn't quite do it. But anyway, it's just, so sometimes people's personalities play into this, which makes it a little awkward. So I don't know how we're going to do it, except to say that I think Don and I are going to do joys and concerns coupled with the prayer, at least to update people. And Carol, I don't know if you heard me say that Monroe Good died last night. Yeah.
Yes, I was here early enough for that.
Okay, you were. All right. But just to say, there are things like that we have to share in worship. And we've had some people in our service that were having things going on and nothing was said. And it made me feel like we should have said something about that. So on Sunday, and sometimes the Spirit just moves. Like on Sunday, with the prayer shawl, I saw Mike over sitting out there. I knew he was having this major surgery in his back. I thought, maybe I'm going to just invite Mike up here and we'll put the prayer shawl around and pray. And they said, oh, that was so meaningful. Kelly said, I just cried the whole time. So I was just sitting back there bawling. She said it was so meaningful for them. So sometimes we just have to go with the Spirit in these types of things, and not everything is scripted, I think, what we say. And even the prayer shawl thing, Sunday morning I found out about.
That was really nice.
Well, I found out about that violence thing when I opened my email Sunday morning. My Saturday was crazy. So Sunday morning I opened it, I thought, oh no, more shooting at a synagogue in California. I thought, how are we going to address this? So that's when I thought, well, why don't we I called him and I said, can you get me more prayer shawls? And let's just stand around the prayer shawls and pray for all these people that have been victims of violence as they come to worship, whether it's Jews or Muslims or Christians. Anyway, so sometimes we just need to be open to the Spirit like that. But we need to be sharing concerns, I think, that are out there. And I don't think it's fair for us to put that on you because you don't know all those things that Don and I necessarily know, or which things we can share and which things we shouldn't share about people, and the updates we can give people, because we between Calvin and Don and I, we are constantly keeping in communication. I mean, Calvin called me this morning at 8:30 and said Monroe Good died, and Ada fell out of bed last night and she's in Lancaster General Hospital. So I mean, these are things I think we need to share with the church. Now, how we open that up beyond that, I don't know. There are creative ways it can be done. I've seen some churches that say, stand in a group about 3 or 4, and we'll all share kind of, some things like that, or pray. And I try to encourage everybody to pray. Some did, some didn't, with the prayer shawl.
I think Josh did that one time as worship leader.
Okay.
We were sitting at tables for some reason. I don't know what it was.
Is Ada Monroe's wife?
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a bummer.
Yeah. And she has some dementia too.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I was gonna say, doesn't she have some?
Yeah, although my visit with her was pretty good, I must say. She
Yeah,
seemed
she
pretty clear, yeah.
I really like the
Have to go into
format.
Total memory care.
Yeah,
After this.
I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because they were having to upgrade. Yes.
I really like the format, how sometimes Don and both of you just take the lead on that in the beginning. And also, like, covering the news and announcements is good. I know I'm always like kind of at a blank for the news and announcements. I mean, I look at the bulletin. But yeah, also definitely the current events. Like, I think if sometimes we miss those, it's not because we don't want to do it, it's just because we're clueless to it.
Oh, I know,
And
exactly.
yeah, I totally agree. Like, especially, I think that's neat. It kind of creates that team instead of just seeing the worship leader right up to the pastor. If the pastor does come up, like maybe right after the intro, we've done that a few times. I think that works great. And then it's like you get a feel for the interplay between the worship leader and the pastor. And I'm totally in favor.
Yeah,
of
well, I
that.
know when I was at Mechanic Grove, for instance, the pastor always did the welcome,
Yeah.
and then some announcements, because again, it's hard to know what's important, and you don't want to just go over everything in the bulletin. That's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are certain things maybe that need like, we got a congregational business meeting, okay, that's something to talk about, like, do we need to, say, sign up for, I don't know what.
That-
You know what I mean? So we have to use, and so maybe, I don't know, if you feel we
Well,
could do
people
this,
tend not to read
Yeah.
the bulletins and things.
I know.
It
Yeah.
helps give
Because
you
I've
the
also
little.
had people
I'm
ask me
sorry.
about something, and I go, well, if you would have read your bulletin, you wouldn't know.
And we are never gonna solve that, except just to say, encourage people to say,
Usually, like,
these are a few things I wanna
service.
highlight, and the rest, please read the
Yes.
bulletin.
Yeah, I often don't get to read mine until after
Yeah,
the
I try to
service.
Well, yeah.
Has anyone,
Yeah.
has anyone noticed that, the media people do update the
Yes.
announcements that are
on
running
the screen.
On
before
the
the
screen.
service?
And that's
Yeah.
important too.
And while some of us, aren't looking at those screens before the service, people that come
Some
in
people
and
do.
sit
Some people
down
do.
are
Yeah.
typically.
So I think that's important,
Well,
and
you have to
that
see
keeps,
things like 7 different ways until it.
That's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly right, that's
It's
what
an
people say.
advertising thing.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah.
One quick thing, I think it also gives a sense of leadership from the pastors that, I think we could use that a little bit. I mean, the worship leader is good at leadership too, but it helps create continuity and like a trusting, like, okay, we have a leader here who's talking to us, who's the pastor. And I don't mean to take the place of the worship leader, but I mean, I think those elements are great to just put them in little bits where you can do the best of. I know, I appreciate that, otherwise it's a little confusing.
Well, like I said, I think the thing that Don and I feel really strongly about is that we want to do the pastoral prayer. In fact, that was a change in traditional service some time ago too. They said, if you're using other worship leaders, they would prefer the pastor do the prayer. So that was a decision they made
I never wanted to do.
a couple years
that.
ago. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
and there's
then,
some,
then I think it's up to the worship leader to check with the pastor, when do you wanna do this? Because there are little prayers here and there.
Well, I
We need to
don't know how
decide
Don
where it
feels,
is.
but I would feel comfortable just allowing you to tell us where
Where
you
it
see the
fits.
prayer would fit. See, I don't have enough knowledge on how you see the flow of things. I don't know how you feel, Don.
Generally, this week I have a prayer that kind of goes with the sermon, so I gave some instruction on that, but most weeks, yeah, I don't care wherever it fits in.
Okay.
here's something I have a quick comment too, is there a problem with doing like 2 prayers, like, or 3 prayers? We used to, I know with
Oh,
Cindy.
no,
it
that's
was
why I
like-
said, I want you to still, I don't want you to feel like we're cutting you out of prayer.
Yeah, it was like, because a
I
lot
mean,
of times the
sometimes
worship
an
leader.
opening prayer or between songs,
Yeah.
or even at the offering, there
You have
are
to be on
opportunities for prayers to happen throughout. In fact, even in traditional, there's an invocation prayer, and there's
Right.
usually a prayer for the offering. So we don't want to cut you out of those, but it's the main prayer of the day that I'm
Sure.
Yeah.
feeling
Pray
Don
for
and
the
I want
prayer.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
Or
any
as we call, what I do is I've been calling it, I don't know what Don does, I don't remember what you do, but I call it prayers of the church.
That's what he calls it.
And that's what I do, that's what I call it in traditional
And then
service.
Bob says, Carol, do you wanna do the prayers for the church? It's like, what's that?
Well, I give you opportunity if you want, yeah, but I
We'll be
think
here all day.
the preference would be for me and Don to do that, so we can include the things that we know happen in congregational life in the world and all that, but not to exclude other prayers, so I don't want you to hear that we're trying to usurp praying.
Yeah, we can't pray too much.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I don't think
So-
anyone objected to that.
However many you wanna do, and then, like I said, I think we wanna couple that with some type of updating of joys and concerns, so that we know kind of what's going on. So that's probably gonna happen immediately. So, I mean, so when you're planning, just kind of put us in for that, if you will. Okay, that's one of the things I think that we wanna start immediately. The second thing is, as far as projection is, that I'm calling today a pre-retreat retreat. We don't have everybody around the table, and believe me, it was difficult getting this date. I mean, this was not easy, because we thought, if we can't get today, we're gonna have to go into June. That is absolutely impossible, what I mean, it's gonna get worse. So we thought we're gonna go with what we go with today. But, just to say, that a morning psalm ministry team had asked Merle and me to put together a retreat. And so we've been kind of talking about this since the beginning of the year, like, when is the best time to do this? So that's when we thought, we gotta get started here, but we would like to have a larger retreat in October, like maybe a whole day retreat, and try to get everybody. And if we can get a date where we can all say, at least us, to say, let's put this on our calendars now, enough, in advance, that hopefully we can get everybody to
Kind of
attend.
short notice this time.
Yeah, and-
It's a little too short notice.
Well, that's it, like I say, it was just difficult, and we felt we needed to get it in before summer, but if we can get an October date, and so before we leave today, I'd like to see if we can check our calendars to see when a good time might be for that. And then to talk about, do we want a whole day retreat? I think we should not have less than that. I think we just need more time together for group building and for other idea things, and maybe to look at the vision for the group. And also have a consultant work with us on that. And Merle and Claire, maybe you want to say a word about retreats in the past. You want to just share a little about, to give the group some idea of what has happened in the past with retreats.
All but Lauren and Linda, I don't think, I think the rest of us have been, well, I don't think you have.
I've been to a board retreat.
When did you start coming here to Lancaster?
When
What
was
year
that?
was that?
7.5 years ago.
7.5 okay, yeah, we haven't had a.
You had one or two, but we didn't,
Yeah.
couldn't make it, I think
Well-
because of his scheduling of things.
Well, then the rest of us remember what we did, but for those who didn't, we would go the whole weekend up to Camp Swatara
Or Black Rock one year.
or Black Rock. But we would stay overnight, we'd get up there Friday night, we'd eat together and we'd jam. You know, we would just be silly and we would sing songs and then we went and slept in bunk beds.
That was the worst part.
So you're voting not to do that,
I'm
right?
voting not to do that, 'cause I wouldn't sleep, because they're horrible.
Yeah.
It's not the bunk beds part.
The bunk beds,
if you can
listening
skip
to
the
people
bunk-
who snore.
Well, let's say this.
They have that Northern
Yeah.
Lodge there.
Right, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
things have greatly
That's
improved.
not where we were.
Northern Lodge, it's like a motel, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never got to be in the Northern.
No,
Lodge.
no. It wasn't there at one point.
Well, they have
so.
West Retreat.
Anyway, so any thoughts you want to say some more about the retreats, things that you did? You said you did some jamming, it was,
Yes.
and we're realizing that an overnight retreat is really tough. You know, it's really tough, and I'm saying, while that would be fun, it would be neat, and maybe you want to do it with those that can come and do that, okay, and that would just be kind of a fun thing, but a whole day if we could, you know, I just think we need to block off a day, and probably a Saturday, don't you think? I mean, I hate to take Saturdays away from working people, but I don't know, and again, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I really would like, before we leave, to set a date that we can agree on for more extended, so like I said, this is a pre-retreat retreat. Okay,
Is there any reason not to look at that date right now, or you have a time to
Ken,
do it?
you wanna do that? Yeah, sure, very good.
We spent a lot of, we spent like, we
19th.
What's that?
spent like many nights.
October 19th.
That's when you do it, October 19th, is that your birthday or what?
No, that's just
Remember that?
middle of the
That was
month.
something
There's plenty of
We have
time.
a third weekend.
We spent many nights, the team at.
That, of course, is the only Saturday that I'm not available.
Okay.
Wow.
Merle and I
I'm
slept
available the
together,
5th,
Yes.
Sarah and I
26th.
slept
So
together.
they
Flew there.
I know.
Wait a minute, oh, they go back there?
It was wonderful.
Yeah, we
Right,
do
but
five
the
days.
10th and 11th is Columbus Day weekend, so a lot of schools will have a long weekend that
Yeah.
weekend, just to
But
be.
families make it away.
That's why I'm saying
I
that.
agree. Yeah, I think, yeah, Michelle was saying that the 12th is probably not good, that's Columbus
I think
weekend,
a couple people home.
kids will be home, and yeah.
So
So,
what about the 17th of
This
October?
is out for me.
That's
These-
Thursday.
These are
you
probably
mean the
out.
19th?
No, oh, I'm looking at 2020, sorry, I have a 2-year calendar. The
You're really
19th,
far ahead. Yeah, the 19th.
the 19th.
Does anybody have the
Yeah,
church
that's the one that'll fit. 'Cause the other
calendar
three, I'll
that-
get it, I'll bring it up.
It's online.
I'll get it, I'll bring it up.
keep bringing it up?
Okay,
Do we have soup and salads?
It would be,
Because
congregational
congregational business meeting is always in October,
it's
we
the
would not wanna do it the
27th.
weekend
That
of
is
it.
I think
Oh, is
that's,
it the next one?
I think
It's the
that's the
27th.
weekend.
the last Sunday,
Okay, then the
That's the
19th would
next
be
week.
good, we wouldn't wanna do the
27th.
26th.
right,
Or the 5th.
I can
I don't
do
know
it
if
the
we have love
19th.
feast.
We
that
do.
week. Okay.
So
but
the
there's
19th
also
is
been
right in
junior high
between.
retreat weekend, so it always
Well,
ends up being junior high retreat.
19th.
We're out on
The
the.
day-long retreat would be somewhere
I don't
fairly
even
local.
know.
What's the 20th,
Yes.
Claire?
Have a job that night.
yes, it would be somewhere local, I mean, I would say no further than Camp Swatara, if we can get Camp Swatara or something like that, it might be nice. But we don't have to do it there because, I mean, I chose this facility because I thought we can meet here, it's close, we're not even needing to sleep overnight. They have a food service director that's giving us the food today, so I mean,
We had one at
Very
the
quick.
Parish Resource Center
well,
one year.
that has been reduced to
Is
just
that not
like
the
a room
same
or
as it
two.
used to be?
It's
Gotcha.
down on Lincoln Highway
Okay.
now.
We also did that St.
I thought
Thomas,
of that too,
the-
and he said,
Okay.
we
And
also
then
did with
what's the
St.
one you
Thomas
did?
or St.
Yes,
Mark's
St.
up there
Thomas.
on
Yeah.
Oregon Pike, and you turn left back in
Well,
there.
we can work at the location, but I think what we commit ourselves to is that it's very short drivable distance.
Yes.
like here, so that, you know, you're not
So what
having to.
about
So
October
19th, good?
Does they
I think
look
that's
okay,
right.
so everybody
Does
knows?
that look okay, October the 19th?
What I'm not seeing
Yep.
is when the traditional, when is the business meeting?
It's the 27th.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Are
it's not
you
on the
sure?
calendar, it's not on the
That's what
calendar.
Bob said.
Well, that, I
Where's
think,
the
have it.
directory? It'll be in the.
does anybody have a directory?
Because it's usually the third Sunday of
Is it?
But
October.
now
There
they're
are,
pushing
yeah.
it because of crop
Well, the
walk.
third,
Oh, that's
We got
right.
messed up last year because it
Yeah,
was the
they
wrong
moved it.
week.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Crop,
The crop
CROP.
Crop.
Walk for,
You
crop
know, the walk for
CROP.
hunger.
Yeah.
Now,
You
the
have a
ninth,
directory.
Okay,
can't
well,
sign
then the 19th, I guess.
Oh.
Anybody have a church directory?
Yes.
let's try to make sure, for sure,
The
that,
date's in there for
that,
sure
the
for congregation.
yeah,
I
that
think
the
that's where I got it
congregational
from,
business meeting.
because
Someone
I
brought
missed
it
We'll
it
up.
put the
last
date
year.
in and then confirm it with everybody.
Well,
This is gonna
Merle's
be
getting
awesome.
a directory right now.
Well, Merle doesn't have it now.
I'm down
What
to
do
the
you
car,
record?
you'll run
I
out.
had
don't
mine
have
out
it
in the
your
car.
calendar.
Is there something we
Mine
can
out in
call
the
or
car.
something?
John will go get his.
Okay.
I'm ready for a walk.
Now, the 19th, I have a women's fellowship breakfast, but that only affects Joanne and I, and they can, I'm not in charge of that when Diana is. So I don't think that we can miss one, I guess. Women's
what are we
fellowship
doing?
breakfast.
And what time is that?
That's in the morning,
Like what time?
9 to 11.
Oh, 9, 11, okay.
Yeah.
What are we doing now?
Well,
Ellen Weaver.
well, before we get the date nailed down, let me ask about times. We decided to start at 9:30 today.
Lovely time.
Is that a good time?
Yeah,
All right,
Lovely.
good.
so it's just gonna be a day.
Yeah.
I
No
agree,
one wants to be
Michelle.
up at 6 a.m. on their day off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
true.
agree with that.
So if we would start at 9:30 and have a lunch, and then maybe conclude before supper, so we aren't involving 2 meals. Is that all right? Like,
Yes.
Like 4:30.
So, yeah,
4:30. I do have to work that evening.
Yeah.
So that'll be better for me. for sure.
Nearby? Is it?
Landisville.
Oh, yeah.
so let's set the
Like
time
that,
at
yeah,
9:30 to
like
4:30.
I'm there
Okay.
tonight.
That way we only have to deal with 1 meal.
Yeah.
You've been out there in there a lot.
And if we could do it someplace where a meal can be provided, like here, you know, they actually have a staff person who's director of food services, and so
Wow.
Just
you
do it
just
here.
call her and she does it.
This is not a
This is
bad
fine.
location in my
Yeah, just do it
opinion.
here.
No, this is a nice location. Let's
Absolutely.
see how the food is.
Yeah, okay, then we'll give Joanne a vote here. Vote of confidence
It's
here.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I had no idea here.
Oh, I
It was
didn't
just
check.
different.
Are you vegetarian by chance?
We'll wait till Dawn gets back
Okay,
here
I
just
love
to give
meat.
us a.
All the bacon.
Carnivores, baby.
Not a problem.
Carnivores, that's.
Oh, carnivores, omnivores, we're actually
Omnivores.
This is true.
Oh, I could.
All right, Don.
Says October 27th.
Yeah.
All right. So are we set that we want to go October 19th?
Yeah.
So we need to get this out ASAP so that
Exactly.
people can put it
So
on
we're
their
doing it
calendar.
here at 9:30?
Merle, can you get
Well, we
that?
didn't
say
zero
location.
Well,
in.
we'll choose location.
What do you mean by all day?
We just said
9:30 to
9:30 to 4:30.
4:30.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So it'll be all morning and then a lunch provided, and then we don't have to have the evening meals
October
together.
19th.
Yeah, and I can bring that stuff.
Yes.
I mean,
thank
I
you.
won't bring this stuff.
Right, what a freak. But anyway, but how about, are you okay with Merle and me working on the next retreat too? I mean, we're working on this, and then we'll choose the location.
We'll be
and,
happy to let you do that.
Whereas like say,
Yeah,
Who's got time?
wait a minute,
She's
Bob.
got time.
Yeah.
I've got time.
so as long as we have the date and the time now,
Yes.
we'll work on locations,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And Merle, if you can get this out to everybody,
She's at Red Lobster.
it's like tomorrow or
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, so we wanna get this announced.
Dave Baldwin is gonna be.
Well, no, I'll have to talk about that.
Actually, I can, found a mix.
He did say something.
Yeah, I did, okay. All right, now we have that settled. Hey, that's great. Wow,
Yes.
we're making good progress. Okay, now the third thing
Those Don's
is
on
that, and I've kind of hinted at this, and that is that I feel we need to have a consultant work with us on a number of things. You know, both on the overall worship piece, on the music piece, the worship league, all that. And I think that an outside person can help us better than us trying to do it ourselves. I certainly don't want to do it. And I think having an outside consultant, and Dave Helmuth has a group called Ad Lib, that's the group, and they have a bunch of consultants to work with them. Now, Dave is, and as I said, I've worked with Dave, he's great, our people love him, and he's worked with you a little bit.
He's actually a current.
Dave would be willing to work with us, however, there is a problem. And and his family are moving to Costa Rica
Oh,
in September.
Who's this? Dave Helmuth, that's gonna make it harder for
Yes.
this. By Skype?
Well, that
Yeah.
settles, I would say that settles the retreat location then, doesn't it?
Oh, okay.
Now that is a retreat, people.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Where are
Dave
you gonna do
Helmuth,
church that Sunday?
Dave Helmuth is willing to work with us
Closed for
and with another person on his team. He will work with us, since he's had a little bit of history here,
Yeah.
he'll work with us through the summer and getting this, and then the person that he works with will help lead our retreat.
Okay.
Because we're not gonna wait till fall to get started. In other words, I'd like to start with Dave, ASAP, this
Yeah.
month, and he's willing. The other thing I like about Dave is that he is, he's not an LCB clone, you know what I mean? He's not gonna try to make us into an LCBC church. He was minister of music for several years at Elizabethtown Mennonite, if that tells you anything. He understands kind of the Anabaptist flavor, you know. He is now at Acts Covenant, actually, where
My stepson and daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
And my granddaughter.
so he's working at Acts Covenant right now. But anyway, just to say, Dave understands our theology, our context, and isn't going to try to make us something we're not. You know, and sometimes people come in with their ideas. Well, you're going to be an LCBC. We're going to, no, that's not who we want to be. We want to see who is God calling us to be. What are the gifts we have? What's the unique piece? And He will help us do that. So anyway, just to say that if you are okay with that, I feel a strong need to work with the consultants to help us. So that's where we're going to go on that. The next thing is that, and I talked to Albie about this, in a traditional worship, the choir gets the summer off. Do you guys ever get a break?
No.
Oh, you're sick.
How about we consider starting that tradition then?
Well,
But
what
you
we're
can.
proposing,
You can do one, we had I can't remember clear who it was, taught us that, to cut down, what he does is you have one musician to give the break to the others.
yeah, you can do it that
each
way.
Sunday.
Well,
But-
it's not
On
like
occasion.
everybody plays every Sunday.
No, that's right.
And people do have the right to say how
Yeah.
long they wanna be
Yeah,
left.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can
I know.
get a break.
breaks when we ask for it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
you
think
get a
it's
break.
necessary.
But the other piece of that is that I would like to have some other groups come in for us to get a flavor of what some other groups do. I think sometimes we get
You
very
need to get
insulated,
extra.
and you only know what worship is like. And I'm amazed as I go around churches, they only know their own church setting. There's a lot out there. And I would like to see how you feel about this, of bringing some groups in, maybe up to 4 groups this summer. My initial feeling was maybe we would do like the month of August to have other groups come in. Jody felt, well, maybe that's too much. Maybe we should just alternate, like have maybe every other week in July and August, and just do every other week.
It's gonna be too complicated to
Well,
set your pod.
that's what I thought too. It might be harder to do it that
And this is
way.
late notice too.
Yeah. So I was just kind of wondering how you feel about it. Would you feel like, do you like the idea of having some guest groups in?
Yeah, I do.
And would you feel like maybe having 4 weeks in August? But I don't want you guys to stay away. The thing is, I want the church, but you also to hear and experience some other styles and things. You know what I mean? We get ingrown so easily.
And plus, it would just be cool for you guys to get a chance to be in the congregation and
Yeah,
worship.
and not have to worry
having
about anything, or
responsibilities, you know what I mean?
yeah.
I
So
would
in
like
committing to this, you're committing to actually showing up, not just
Well,
being
I was
on.
wondering-
Yeah,
It's, it's not like,
Your kids
oh great, I'm off. It's like, no, now you are on, you're just
Yeah,
not.
the
I know
idea,
that-
the
that
idea
was a
is so
problem
that
with
you
Sunday.
can experience some other groups leading, rather than just have Sunday off, and yes, okay, you get Sunday off,
Does that mean
we'll
they're
have a
gonna
chance.
do audio and media and
As
lighting
well?
as well?
Well, we will have
Actually,
to
I was
have,
hoping to take
That was
that
my
opportunity while you guys were off to learn how to do that, so I could cover those bases at need.
okay,
Also.
so Albie would maybe help with some of that, because we, like I said, we do put a lot on you media people.
And maybe that cuts some of
Quite easy
those
to do.
opportunities to train people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. If
I would definitely like to dig in a little deeper to the sound and media so that I can,
That'd be great.
get into the rotation there with all y'all and give you guys a break.
well, and you wouldn't have to be up there maybe every Sunday either, so you could do something like that and then give, so anyway, the point is, are you okay with me, I'm sensing what I think would work best might be to say, let's take the Sundays in August and to try to get some different groups. And some of the groups I'm thinking of is, I thought I might call Dean Sensening at Ephrata Church.
Alpha Omega would be good to bring in.
Yeah,
Oh,
Alpha
Petra
Omega would
has
be
an
great.
amazing worship
Well, what I would like,
musician.
what I would like, excuse me, what I would like from you is, what I would like from you is if you could give me suggestions of groups you would like me to invite. I mean, you maybe you have maybe a friend or family in a group or whatever. I mean, my grandson plays here, but no. But maybe you have some connection with a group that we could call. And I don't know how this is going to work. You know, they're involved in their own church. It's summertime. Maybe I'm pie in the sky here, but I think in some of the larger churches that have more people, they can, different, have a group come in. So are you okay with maybe Albie and me working on this? Because it's going to take some coordination coming in, and Albie's going to have to be there to show them how to set up. You know what I mean? It isn't that you just kind of come in. No, they're going to have to come in to practice. They're going to, you know what I mean? But we're not going to involve you except for Albie to get things set up and work it out.
Yeah, I'll go
Who puts
with
the order
to
together?
rehearsal.
Well, we'd have to work with them on that. I think we would give them the sermon title like we do you, and ask them to come up with a proposal for.
And who would worship lead? Would pastors
No,
worship lead then?
They would
lead
worship
too.
lead, just like you are. Yeah. That's I think what the expectation would be, that we would ask them to do that. So are we okay about us moving ahead on that?
Yeah.
Any questions or concerns about that?
My only concern again is the technical aspects.
Yeah.
Well, I'll,
Okay.
well, no, I mean, I'll take
Audio is one thing, media is something else. I mean,
Yeah,
these
media is
these
about-
girls put in
Yeah.
10 to 20 hours
I know.
a week doing media.
And
for-
they might
to
have
support
media
that
people
service.
that could come in and help us with that too. You know
And
what I
then
mean?
maybe we'd be low on media.
Well, they might,
Or
but
we could,
Yeah.
or like you say, maybe we just be low in media.
Yeah.
We could work with them on it, and with Dave Helmuth working with us, he might be able to give us some leadership or people that.
Because if they're doing the whole show, you have to
pay
be,
them.
Right,
you have to be in communication to them as what has to be done on the media.
Yeah. right, because they would have the songs and the things, so I think their media person would almost have to come along with them.
For the
Yeah.
songs,
Yeah.
the sermon
Yeah.
is a different thing.
Right.
But are there,
That's a lot to ask, I think, for
Like,
an
are there,
outside group to,
Yeah.
you gotta do what you guys do for the sermon.
they would likely have to bring their laptop
That's
with
what I
their
was just gonna
software.
ask.
They
Exactly.
There's
can
a-
plug into
yeah.
our jacks.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And we do that in
Right.
the chapel and some other things with our speakers, so I think that could
Well,
easily
yeah, that
happen.
can be done, yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah,
the
that's
answer.
so-
That would be the
Yes,
answer,
that would be
because there's
difficult.
multiple software
Yes.
formats.
Right.
you know,
That's
It's not
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
We have two each.
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna ask, is if
Yeah.
our stuff would be compatible with
It's
other
very,
people's
you just
stuff.
plug right
Well,
into
So
the
if they can run,
The-
if they can bang it on
Yeah,
their
I mean, they can
laptop.
plug into our jacks, but
Yeah.
You guys, I do
But
learn
our-
how to do media. That's
there's probably not too
Jeff
many
wants
people
to.
using Proclaim.
Well, okay, so,
It's doable.
are we okay with us at least trying to work on it? And again, this is gonna have to happen pretty quickly because, we're into May, and this is August. But if we're looking at 4 Sundays, if we're looking at 4 different groups, and I would like to get 4 different styles of groups, you know what I mean? Just to give us a kind of a, like I said, when we were here, we had 6 groups come in, and they were all different. But it gave us a different feel of what worship could be, might be, So, okay, well, let me, but again, if you have suggestions of groups, I know this group, or
Hasn't First Harrisburg come down and done that before, Linda?
That was a.
Wasn't that the church that the youth went with the
No,
1 year? It didn't-
that was that.
Am I thinking of the
no.
wrong church?
Yes,
Yes.
you are thinking of the correct church. And
that was Youth Sunday last
that
year.
was yeah.
That's not gonna work.
That is not.
And I'll tell you why,
I couldn't remember.
and I'll tell you why it won't work, because Josiah Ludwig is now doing mission work in Rwanda.
Oh, okay.
So, he's not coming.
I
Well,
just remember the name of the church. I couldn't
Yeah.
remember what group.
they were the
it
ones
was.
that were supposed to come in and help, but it was
Yeah.
dicey.
Okay.
But that was not Josiah's fault.
No.
Josiah is a great guy, and yes, they would be great because they do have a multicultural aspect to it. But he's living in Rwanda right now, so that's not gonna work.
So you have a big enough budget to pay Helmus and
Yes.
his consultants and all the other people?
That's right.
Well, that's wonderful.
It would either come out of the Morning Song budget or the Strategic Initiative Fund, which, you know, we can put any new initiatives like we're doing. All it needs is the approval from Don and Frank Fox and myself to tap into that.
Wow.
Yes,
But there's plenty of money to cover
About some
new
of these
initiatives
things.
like
Your
this.
stamper warmed up.
But we will try
I
to
think
work
it's something we can spend
the
some money
budget,
on.
yeah. Okay,
Good.
so that's something we will work on, those 4 Sundays. The next thing is that we're going to develop a survey of worship attenders to evaluate the worship experience. So I've talked to Dave Helmuth about that, and what we'll do is we will run that by the Morning Psalm ministry team to be sure that we're asking the right questions. You know, how are you experiencing our worship? You know, all aspects of it, and I think that would be a good thing. Now, let me just say that, you know, I stand at the door and greet people, and I can tell you that I get a tremendous amount of people complimenting on the worship service. I mean, people coming through the line, I get a lot of very favorable comments. That doesn't mean everybody is necessarily there, but I'm just saying, I think we will find there is a high level of appreciation for the group. I know some of you have frustrations internally, but I don't think that's necessarily coming out there. Yeah, maybe with some people, and that's what a survey will do. You know, we'll be
So
able,
are you gonna enact, I was on the church strategic planning and it covered all the services.
yes, yeah.
But nothing was ever done.
Well,
All those hours and hours.
well, we are planning, we still are planning to do it. What happened was that Jeff resigned in the middle of it, and we thought we better wait just to see.
Oh, no, this was years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, well, we had another one we were going to implement
Yeah.
last fall, and then with Jeff
We
leaving,
did
we
the
thought
survey,
we
'cause I
stole.
helped write it, and I'm telling you, Bob, it just didn't.
So you have one that would have been for Morning Psalm,
It was for the whole church, which included morning.
but was there a specific one for Morning Psalm, you know?
No.
No, but there were questions about
Okay,
morning.
can you
song.
find that?
Oh, I don't know.
That was
I have a
pretty
binder.
in-depth.
That was
I-
very in-depth.
Okay.
I think
Who
maybe
was
you're
the group
thinking
we worked
something
with?
more more simplistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is
How
to
old-
pass
how
this
old
out
is
on
that
a
gonna
Sunday
be?
morning.
It could be not
Yeah.
relevant
What's this?
anymore.
I'd like to pass it out on Sunday morning,
People
ask
answered
people to,
honestly.
Yeah.
to complete it
Yeah.
there, if they can.
Oh, okay.
In other words,
Well,
if you
I
take it
remember some
home,
things about
you
Then you
know,
won't
morning
get them back.
yeah, that's what happens so often.
Yeah.
So I would like to just say, let's carve out sometime, 15 minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes for people to do, but simple enough. I mean, some of it would be like on a scale of the 1 to 5. Some of it would just be that, and then there'd be opportunity to write comments also if people have them.
Maybe
And-
we could do one of those like work interview things, like, disagree, strongly disagree.
Yeah, right, on a scale, right. So a lot would be that way,
That's
so
more
people can easily do it, but if you are passionate about something, you can write
Still have
comments.
a comment where they can
Yes.
say, I'd like to hear this. or-
So that's how I'm envisioning this,
Yeah.
survey for the whole group, and I'd like to do that in June. So during the month of May, I'd like to compile that. I want to talk to Dave Helmuth about it, see if he has some tools, maybe Parish Resource Center. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I think there's stuff out there
Yeah, I'm sure.
that can help us. So that's one of the things. Then the next thing that I want to do is, I want to develop an evaluation of worship services by you. In other words, you can have the first form with everybody else. But then I think there's things specific to the worship leaders and the leadership that you can answer that other people aren't gonna know. This is your opportunity to kind of share, what are some of the things that you're feeling, rating, things, so that we have a direct input from you. So this would be separate from that. And I'd like to do that in June as well. Work at these both together. First, the general one for everybody, and then a specific one for all the leaders, and give you opportunity to share and evaluate all aspects.
Were you the one that's for everybody, were you just gonna do that one Sunday, or were you gonna do it a couple Sundays so you could catch more people?
Well, what I thought I would do is that we would designate a Sunday, when we're gonna do this, and we do it, and then we would say, are there people, either we would go through the check, because we do keep attendance records, and we would either put one in a mailbox of people that weren't there who are regular attenders, or say, if you weren't here last week, here is one, they may have to take it home.
Yeah.
I still think that we want to get the broadest amount of people, but I don't want to have everybody take it home, because then the return rate, you know how that goes. So if we can get as many people at one time, but then those that aren't there still have opportunity.
So there's a lot of people on vacation in
Right.
June.
Exactly, yeah. So I think we want to be able to touch everybody.
I think if we announce it in the June newsletter too, that could be helpful, I don't know, or even posting it on the website.
Yeah, what
Or
if we offer the
Facebook,
guys,
wherever people are
Both,
go.
do it all.
what if we offer the guys, the congregants, like an online
Well, we could do that too,
version of it,
yeah.
you know?
I
But
don't,
you
Where
can't
people
be
can't.
there.
I don't
Oh, a
think
Google
techie,
one?
but,
Yeah, I mean, it probably needs to be no more than 10 questions.
You can do
Right.
it.
Yeah, you don't have to
Absolutely.
Google Docs.
It needs to be,
Google Docs has one too,
you know,
Google
a sheet of
Docs.
paper.
Docs, yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Their own
easy.
survey
Yeah, or
kind.
jot,
yeah, you do a survey monkey thing.
Yeah, like a
I used to-
downloadable
Yeah.
PDF
I
that
forget
they
what the
did.
Google survey,
Type
I
in the
think.
actual-
So-
I've used it.
So we could do it both ways. We could do
Also
it,
jot,
survey.
website
using the
jot.
survey monkey thing, which is a good way to
Or
get
survey
stuff.
Most
monkey.
everything.
Or a printed thing on Sunday morning, which is what I, would prefer, but yes, we do online. And then for those people that just aren't tech savvy like me,
Right.
if you aren't there for that, can't do that, then,
And it's important to you.
Never
We'll
did
make-
that survey one.
okay?
I do weird little cartoon drawings.
Yeah.
So the idea is then that as we move forward on the timeline here, that we would have this by the end of June collated
Right.
and put together so we can start formulating what are the things we need to be working on, what are the things that will help as we go toward the retreat in the fall. So I think we need all that information. So both the survey of the congregants and your survey all need to come together in June, collated, shared, and then we will take it from there.
Now, when you say shared, are you thinking of sharing what the congregants say back to them or not? As a group.
Well, I think what we will do is something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had pastoral evaluations every year since I've been evaluated, and a lot of times what they will do is they will give a summary statement to the congregation.
Okay,
Now, you won't get every comment, you won't get,
okay.
but they
Yeah.
may say, generally people feel blah, blah, blah.
So like in other words, the pastor's gonna evaluate everybody's results and give it to us?
They might
We're
say
gonna
that.
get William Barr to do it.
Yes.
No.
You know, oh, it's all good.
Very positive.
But I would say, yeah.
There will be parts redacted.
So anyway, and I think the things, shared with, by you guys, we wanna have that as part of at least our retreat.
Sure.
As that's gonna give the thrust for what we do,
Yeah.
as
Well,
based
we
on
need
that.
to know the results, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So all that would kind of come back and help formulate where we need to be going
Would
on
it be
that.
going kind of through the ministry, the team first?
They would probably,
Yeah.
the ministry team would need to be involved. And I want them to actually give the approval on the final form we approve too, because I want to be sure we get everybody's input. Are we asking the right questions? Have we forgotten something? So the Morning Psalm ministry team needs to have a little bit of input before we.
I wanna see the unredacted.
You want to see what?
The unredacted one.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's that. Now, the other thing is, then what I'd like to do is, when we get to October, is to either reaffirm or develop a new vision for Morning Psalm. All this is leading toward that. See what I'm saying? I don't see that we're gonna do that today. We're just laying the groundwork today, okay? But hopefully, with a consultant, with these forms, with the surveys, by the time we get to October, we can say, this is the direction we feel we need to be going. We'll have heard other groups, yeah, I like what they did. Wouldn't that be cool if we could do that? You know what I mean? So there's some things I'm hoping that will kind of feed into this, so that by October 19th, we're gonna be ready, with the help of a consultant, to lay forth a vision of where we need to be going. So that's kind of the game plan here, if that sounds okay to you. I would love to say, let's fix this next month. This, I think the issues we're having didn't start in a month. They're not gonna be fixed in a month. And will we be able to fix it? Well, I say this, I'm doing my best, God's gonna have to do the rest. So, I think we're gonna just have to trust the Lord. We'll see, we're gonna need a lot of prayer. We're gonna need a lot of effort, of people pulling together and unity and all that. But anyway, so the goal is that by October, we really have a sense of where we need to be going, what we need to be doing. Part of it's gonna be recruitment. How do we get more? I would love to have a couple worship teams, an A team and B team, so that, you have an A team so you're playing every other week and getting to worship without that every other week, and at least that's one of my things, maybe that's not your vision. But that would, to me, be ideal if
I
we
think it
could
wouldn't
have.
be bad for the team to have at least one weekend off.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, that you know you have some time off, or you have team, anyway, all that we can be working at. So, okay, that's what I want to talk about, projections. Now, we're going to do actually some specific things, and what I want to ask you to do, do you have any questions about any of this before I move on to the next little thing here? All right, so what I'd like for you to share first of all is, what is it that excites you about being part of the Morning Psalm team? Why are you here? Why do what you do? What is it that motivates you? What is it that gives you energy? I'm not going to call on people. You know, you can just kind of share however you want. So I want to start there.
I don't know if I can pinpoint, and it's multiple feelings, okay? First, I enjoy this service, the type of service we have. So that sort of drew me to begin with. There are all other times when nobody else is doing it, it's gotta be done, so I do it, okay? But I still feel, and I'm hoping that we can get back to being, quote, a mission of Lancaster Church of the Brethern. It's not them and us, it's a mission of LCOB. And that would thrill me more. I have goosebumps already thinking about it. It's a mission. It's a mission. And in my thought, initially, we thought we'd go after, would be seekers, going after, seekers and bringing new people in. And we deviated some. But my first thing is, I enjoy this type of service. So I feel happy in it. I like to sing, and I found out that my foot goes to any kind of music, like it was going on. It just happens without thinking,
I think last night was a really great example of all three of the services, members of all three of the services coming together to achieve a common goal.
Yeah.
That was, for me personally, that was really, really
Yeah.
cool to see and to be a part of.
How many were there?
There were
Over 100.
117 there, and
It was
we,
well attended.
Yeah,
we
it was
exceeded
well
the-
attended.
we exceeded the
Three
donation goal.
Nice support, I think, from our congregation and visitors, a nice smattering of.
And it was really
yes,
like
people
the,
I had never saw before.
Yeah, there were a
It
lot
was-
of people from outside the church that got word through LNP and through JTL and the other radio stations that, and Vicky actually handled all those logistics and stuff and brought it all together and
That's
got the
a
volunteers.
newspaper article.
At Kavod, we had his wife. Unfortunately, she has a lot of health problems, and
That's
she
what I
didn't
heard.
talk about him.
Is that
That's why
Melody
everybody came. People paid $60 a plate.
It's kind of a
Remember that?
shame because, in doing my research on Keith Green, like she wrote a lot of his songs,
Yes.
particularly the lyrics.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I could see where, she would feel like, okay, I want to talk about the actual process,
But she didn't. She talked about going downtown Lancaster and talking with youth on the street, which was really good, but people paid that money to hear about her life with Steve Green because, Keith,
Green.
there's been a lot of heartache, thank you. There's been a lot of, it's the drugs. There's been a lot of, there's been a lot of heartache in her life, even after the plane crash and
Yeah.
everything, which is so heart-rending.
But what was neat last night is too, I think there were a lot of traditional service people there too. I mean, I think that I'm
Well, they
sensing
remember him.
there is more of an openness among the traditional people to wanting to support.
Well, I think it's
Morning
because we
Psalm.
were supporting
Yeah,
a project too. I think that helped draw them out.
But they knew
Mission.
Steve Green too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like our dinner theaters,
Yeah.
all four services
Yeah.
came together.
and then with
It's a
Alex
common
sharing with
law.
Maranatha and Margaret, I just had to sit back and laugh. Here's Margaret. She's going to be playing "Thou Art the Rock" by Henry Mulay in 2 weeks for the Mary Guild Organist. And here she is. I thought that is so cool to see
we were
Margaret
having
up
a
there
good
doing
time.
that. Kind of rocking with this stuff. Anyway, just to say that was a great.
Poor Marg was like so nervous about that, and she, she need not have been. It was,
It really was neat.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It was
just to
awesome.
say,
It was good.
more opportunities that bring us together as
Yeah.
a church, I think, are good. So anyway, okay, Merle shared some of the others that you want to share.
I know when I first came here, it was after a spell of about 15 years of not going to church, mostly college and then after college. And I questioned a lot, do I want to do this? And the answer I got, well, what better way to do good than in a corporate setting where everyone is doing good and also tying that into God and Jesus too. And I think there's a lot of good being done outside the church. I know I felt I was trying to do good before I came back to the church again. But in a way that's corporate is one thing that's exciting. And what really excites me, because I think the church has had a massive exodus. I know it has a massive exodus during my lifetime, where people were, in my generation, were disenchanted by all sorts of bad things or whatever. And it was easier for them to just blame the church and go away from them. And that's really sad, in my opinion. And it's not all the church's fault, it's the world's fault, it's their fault. But some of it is, perhaps the church's fault too, I think. So I think the world, more than anything, needs the church right now. And if it's brought to them in an authentic way, in a way that's not, and if we can pull this off, like actually in Lancaster, be part of this revival again, that would be awesome. So that's why I stay here. And sure, I enjoy all the other things, the singing, the playing, the technology, the sound equipment, intellectual conversations. And I think we all do, but where to put our place in this ministry, perhaps giving up some of those, focusing on others, whatever it takes, keeping this ministry in mind that locally in Lancaster and also throughout the world, of getting people to say, hey, this is real, and coming back to the church would be fantastic.
Well, I love performing arts, as some of you might know, and I like using my training and experience in worship arts. And our church had really opened the door for that many, many years ago, back in the 90s. So that's what I like. But I'm going to admit, I like morning psalm a lot. I also like traditional. I like the crossover sometimes. So I like using my gifts in both settings, and many of you do the same thing. But morning psalm has really opened doors for a lot of people here to use their talents that they wouldn't have had an opportunity to do so. And I think this group does a good job. And yes, we've seen people come and go over the years. And I don't know if Millie Bumberger would be real happy right now, but because she had a lot of issues with when we started sliding down. But that's everywhere.
Yeah.
So don't
Yeah.
beat yourselves up. I think you're
Yeah.
starting to come up, or I wouldn't
Yeah.
be here with you. I really do think you're starting. Well, not that I would jump ship when you're sinking, but still, I think you're starting to.
You just lost a lot of confidence there, Carol.
That didn't sound good, did it? But I do think you are coming up. I'm energized with enthusiastic with what I see from the group. So.
Well,
Well,
I
and
know,
then-
I know,
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
okay. I know people from other churches that their churches are dying.
Yes,
They're like,
definitely.
they're just trying to keep open, and they're down to like a handful of people, and
It's a different world.
they don't know what to do. They don't want to give the church up, but yet they can't afford it anymore.
Some are merging, and the mega
Yeah.
churches are growing.
Well, I don't know if this fits what Bob originally asked, but I was inspired by what Matt said about the time when he started coming was that college age, that young adult age. And I saw the one paper that's here. I'm just learning some of the history and all of that stuff too. And the stuff that's being shared, it's got youth written all over it. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's 11 youth. But do you know how many young adults have come through our doors and aren't connected to the church now?
Anymore, right.
Yeah.
And
Many of them were in dinner theater. I had over 50 kids in dinner theater for years.
And
Some
that
are still
could be
there.
the new direction of the people we're seeking.
Yeah.
We're not that far from the college, 2 colleges. F&M's right there. Millersville's just around the corner. We've got youth who go to Millersville. We used to have a good connection, and maybe still have some with Megan, who used to do work at
Yeah.
F&M. And that is a real seeking, interested group of people that really gets left out. And a lot of it's because transportation, just timing, but not even, they don't even know that it's available to them, that if somebody just reached out, there might be people who'd be willing to, get pulled back into their faith and, even growing. Yeah, I think it's a hard time, but that's a real huge need.
Well, let me pick up on that too. I had challenged the executive committee to reach out to 3 ministers that have kind of not been active at the church. One was Tracy Sad. And when we met with her, and that was Deb Chillis and me, she got very excited about the possibility of trying to connect some college kids. She's the chaplain at Elizabethtown College. And she said, I'm looking for opportunities to maybe connect the students with the church. And she'd like to have some further conversation about that. Since that time, she's been at church a couple times, and they hadn't been here for a couple years. So we're trying to reach out to her. We have a meeting with Stan Duick this week. We met with Jerry Miller last week. So anyway, I'm trying to forge some connections with some people that could open some doors in that regard, at least, and others too, but we're working on it. Anybody else want to share? Yeah, Dean.
Not really off the subject, but kind of overall, we all know why we were there. But a few years ago, we were given a book, Think Like a Filmmaker. And I think that we are missing the boat, and forgive me for using this term, Carol will appreciate this, production value. We're missing using so much of what we have. And I'll give you a prime example. If you go online, Clara posted a video when we did Watch Me Away, and Terry had the lights, and we were doing the lights during the song, and had such an impact, an emotional value. And I think we're missing a lot of that in the service. I know we have been out to see numerous other contemporary services, and I think that's where we are falling short. I mean, the more we do to impact the emotional feel
And creativity.
Yeah.
So that's just my.
That's good. If you do the same old thing in the same old way, you get the same old results.
Right, yeah.
And in some ways, and I've shared this and it sounds odd, in some ways I think there's a little bit more diversity in the traditional service right now than there is in our contemporary service.
I would agree.
Yeah. Well, we really haven't done a lot of the things we were starting to do with Cindy when she left. And I think it's because we're in a holding pattern right now because of the minister issue. But I think the fact that they said that they're gonna have 2 ministers and not assign them, say traditional, could really help the whole church in general. I mean, I thought that was a real positive
Well, that's one of the things
thing
one guy
that they
would
came
do.
out at the congregational meeting.
Yeah, and Don and I are feeling very committed that we want to be pastors of the whole church, so it's alternating back and forth, but I still think you need somebody that has some expertise in,
Well, yeah,
in this.
I mean, I'm not saying, yeah.
But they need to be pastors of the whole church,
Yeah.
so.
What I really like is how you share your sermons. Because I'll have people come up to me from the other service and say, did you hear this one yet? You know? Did you hear the one about the apple tree?
Yeah, I've had that too. People have said that to me
in
too.
itself is unity, you know?
Yeah,
I think that's wonderful how we're sharing
Yeah.
the same sermons, not the same week, but it's impacting.
And that
yeah,
kind of unity seems to be becoming more frequent here, and like the collaboration between the services seems to become a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there's
frequent
many
over the
churches
past
that,
year.
like Bob said, have the same
Yeah.
pastor who preach in
I
one
know.
service and the other, and it really connects.
It's
We aren't
it's
big
very
enough
hard
for
to do that
Yeah.
with our schedule, you know,
Yeah.
because, but I did it in December, although, you know, really keep your,
Yeah.
Can't do
Yeah,
that all the
yeah.
time. You
Yeah.
learn stuff, right?
yeah.
yeah,
But
Well, you have a
the way
chapel
we're doing
service,
it
too,
is,
3
it
services.
helps in a way because actually, Don and I are both part-time. We're
Yeah.
part-time.
Yeah, we-
And by
We
us
benefit.
having to prepare a sermon only every other
We
week
benefit.
and share it,
Yeah.
that certainly has helped
Yeah.
our time because, you know, we're kind of limited in what we can do.
well, I think
Yeah.
it's
Well-
just,
Sorry.
oh, go ahead.
You know, going back to the question that you asked about, you know, why we're doing this.
Yeah.
You know, you heard me say that, you know, I volunteered back in 1995 because I felt motivated by the ministry aspect of what this could be. And over the years, that's what's kept me here. Along with seeing the people that were involved develop, you know, become more fully devoted to Christ. And to me, the ministry of whether we're looking at seekers or whether we're looking at unchurched, and as you mentioned, Linda, there's a huge opportunity in young adults that, I really think that we need to maybe focus in on that ministry and try to figure out how to get
And that is one of the
those
goals.
folks involved.
Yeah.
Trying to address.
And regardless of the weather, we need to go fishing.
Anybody else want to share what kind of motivates you to be part of the team?
So I consider myself kind of a part-time worshiper because I do morning song, or I attend with church 50% and I do praise kids 50%. So I miss a lot, but I see a lot. So I don't.
Yeah.
And there are times with my involvement, I might sing once a month maybe, and there are times where I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I give myself 1 week off. This is crazy. And but because, as Claire mentioned, my story and how I came part of this, because it was nothing I've ever wanted to do. So between morning psalm shaping who I am, between Carol with dinner theaters, like
She was
16, shaping who I am. You know,
They go like you anymore.
the times when Praise Kids came out of me shaped through these these ministries that were set up. So anytime that I sit there and go, why am I doing this to myself? There's something about when I get on that stage to help lead worship that just makes me feel like I'm at home. Like this is who shaped me. This is the ministry that shaped me.
so well.
And so that's why I still stick my toe in this water.
And you know what, I mean, I'm glad you shared that, because really, I mean, having worked with youth and been with youth for so long, we don't have that deeper connection to get people to the place where Lisa is today. Because there's nobody else really surrounding that. Parents, that's about it. But we don't have, beyond youth, once they're out of youth programming, they are not at all connected to the church. And it's not about, I can keep asking for volunteers, but until a ministry steps up and says, at our heart, we really want to be engaged with these young people. They come, they worship, they're here mentored as youth, and then they walk away.
And
because
unfortunately,
they don't have the connections.
And
Because we
unfortunately-
don't have these ministries
Yeah.
that are saying, come in, like the
Yeah.
theater ministry saying, this is not your youth leader. This is somebody else who's also engaged in the church, who sees you, who's interested in you, who wants to be connected with you. If it's just the youth leader, that's great. I still have lots of youth friends.
Yeah.
But they're not connected to the rest of the congregation. And they're missing that opportunity where Lisa's had that building stage. And now, look, she's, running a ministry and loves to be engaged. And we don't have it.
Well, the church kind of killed the drama.
Isn't some of that though, because a lot of times nowadays, when kids go to school, they leave the area.
I was
And
just
how
gonna say
many
the same
actually
thing.
come back? Yeah.
Although we have
And, cause I know when I went to college, for a long time, I didn't go to church just because I didn't know where to go. I
But
mean,
you know that?
I was growing up Schwenkfelder and there's only 5 churches and there's not even 5 churches now.
And we
And to
can
find
be the
something
church.
comparable.
We can be the church
hard.
staying connected to those who leave, but we can be the church for those who are in our area who are
Yeah.
disconnected from their church.
Yeah.
Because they're
And that's what you're
seeking
talking
too,
about doing.
both
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
You can say, when you come home for the summer, we know where you are, we know what you're doing, we want to be engaged with where you're at. But also for those who, all the rest of the school year, they don't have a place to call home. We can be that for them for that time. Sometimes you're doing the mentoring and you're not gonna see, that's one thing about youth, you don't see where they're gonna go in the end. You're just working with trying to get them connected here. But,
And unfortunately, I think at Lancaster, when the kids get out of youth group, the parents drop out. I think I've seen a number of situations here, like, so what
The
happens to
kids
the
are going
parents?
to now, yeah.
Now, next Sunday, my sermon morning psalm is called Delinquent Parents.
oh, good.
Oh.
Anyway,
I'll make
but
it.
but lots of times I find that when the youth are, done, then the parents drop out. At least that's what I've observed.
Or vice versa.
Vice
Yeah.
versa.
And the other
I've
thing
seen that
with youth is, I think you're right, I remember when we I was working with the youth here and went to National Youth Conference. We had 40 youth from our church here that went to National Youth Conference. All 40 were going to college. And so most of them were going out of the area. We were talking with a group of about 12 from the Moeller Church. 2 of them were going to college, 10 were staying in the area. They were either working on the farm or they were staying actively involved in church. Our kids were all going all over the place. So I mean, it's more of a challenge when you have your kids going to college, but that doesn't mean it's insurmountable. It's just how do we connect, and how do we connect with those kids who are in Lancaster away from their church? So I think we can see it as either a problem or a challenge. And
Well, I
I think
know-
that's,
When I was growing up, once we got past 9th grade, the kids just kind of disappeared. It wasn't even good child. I was really kind of disappointed because there was a lot of things that we didn't have access to when I was that age.
yeah, Dean.
Well, if you look at the thing that I did a couple of years ago, when we did have some youth that was trying to say, let's get them involved with us, because the previous youth leader, I mean, he'd come in with donuts for them, and even when he was worship leader, the kids weren't there during the service. I have no idea where they went. Did they do something separate, or?
I think,
And it is a challenge.
Yeah.
Youth ministry is a big challenge, and I think Lynn's done a great job with kind of
That's
Facebooking
big.
stuff, and if they can't come to Sunday school, you're still connected. We've had them plug in, it's
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
what Linda has done, I think tremendous.
Yeah,
Linda does really good with the kids. Kids love her.
I think a big thing is, like you did with Lisa, is that plugging in. When you're going fishing too, it doesn't have to be like, accept Jesus into your heart and hammering that through. But show that love that you have, that you've received, plug them in, and it's about the modern stuff. That's cool. It's about the music. If it's done well, if it's done in a way that is successful and cool, and they're like, oh, well, this is the real deal here. This isn't just, and then it's like, plug that in. It's about technology. My cousin, who's not necessarily the most church person, but he's plugged into a church because it's got the cutting edge film, it's got live streaming, it's got all sorts of tech, and then you plug them in, you love them, you show them, just like you were done with drama. You're like, hey, you can do this, show that interest, get the mentoring going. All of a sudden they're doing something that is not second rate, that is comparable with the world, even above the world, plus it gives them that feeling that it's for a good cause. That's
the
It,
church
it,
leaders
gives
did
them
that.
a little bit of religion, because we
Yeah.
never did religious plays, one.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was off Broadway, it was a
Yeah.
slice of life,
Mhm.
and people were very touched with that, and if you joined a church because of that.
Yeah.
Or went back to their church.
Yeah, and if you come straight
And
at
they were
them,
young and older people.
if you come straight at them like, accept Jesus into your heart and all your sins will be forgiven, you'll be saved forever. They're like, what does that mean?
Well, they need to hear it, but
Yeah, but if you love them
they
and
can
get
play
them
the
in,
instrument.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then they get an impression and that
That's
plants a
right.
seed, and then
Hey,
maybe
these
one.
people are good, there must be something to
Yeah,
this.
Well, is there anybody else who wants to share? We're just about up to lunchtime, and there's 2 more things I want to do. Carol's going to share a little bit after lunch, but we're going to do brainstorming a little bit for the upcoming series, so get your calendars out. We want to look at worship leaders for the summer. Now you don't have to worry about August. But the 2 things we want to talk about before we leave today is, for this I rejoice, in terms of morning psalm, and then for this I pray. So that's kind of where we want to go after Carol's presentation, and then break.
Or you might wanna leave during the presentation.
Yeah, no, Carol. And Carol wants to talk a little about stage presence. I think somebody touched on that. How do we, project ourselves, when we're up there? Because we are worship leaders, and we have to project something that is exciting and connecting with people. And I think Carol will have some thoughts on that because she's done a lot in that field. So that's kind of after lunch. So I thought what I'd do now is let's have a prayer for our lunch. We're going to move to the fellowship hall, and I will take you on a little bit of just a mini tour to show you a couple things I think are kind of interesting you may want to see, and then we'll have lunch. So Don, could you have our prayer for us?
God, we thank you for the time we've spent together this morning and the good conversation we've had and the directions for the future that are emerging. We're thankful for this group of people and the commitment that's represented here. We thank you for all the ways that you bless us, and we're thankful now for the food that we're about to share. We pray that you'll bless our fellowship together as we share it, and we give thanks for the people who prepared it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, I'm going to lead the way back here. What we'll do is I want to stop first at the prayer room, show you the prayer room that we have to Millie Baumberger, even though she's not totally 100%, and the other one's to Gladys Arnold. In fact, I'm visiting Gladys this coming week. But they were so instrumental and so supportive of the group. I just thought it might be nice, and maybe we can still do that at some point, just give them a card to let them know how much we appreciate their work in starting things.
And maybe we can give a shawl to Gladys. Millie has
Oh, okay.
stuff, but Gladys, I'm sure does it.
Well, I'm planning to see her this week, so,
Okay, we'll get one ready.
okay.
Yeah. Do you want, should we give your credentials so we know why you're up there?
I wanna hear what you have to say after all that.
Well, I gave it to Mr. Bob here.
Oh, okay, Bob.
Okay, I'm only gonna do the first page of 5.
Bob has pages
Yeah.
of yeah.
Award-winning writer and theater director, recognized journalist, photographer, published playwright, seasoned actor, accomplished public speaker, and public relations professional. Carol was the LCOB Performing Arts Director for 18 years, directing 14 dinner theater productions, over 100 Sunday morning skits written by her. She also directed and wrote scripts and was MC for dozens of special church events. For the past 5 years, she's volunteered her time to direct, write, and act in church drama and special events. Her arts experience includes F&M College, Fulton Theater, Mount Gretna Tabernacle, Kavod Performing Arts, Lancaster County Association of Educational Professionals, Leadership Lancaster, Lancaster YMCA, Lancaster Newspaper Food Show, Red Hat Society, Kiwanis Rotary Lions Club, Lanco, Brethern Village, Garden Spot. And she's currently director of Carroll Communications and a correspondent for Lancaster newspapers and fitness class instructor.
Fit and fab.
Fit
and fab.
Fab.
Okay, thank you, Bob, and there was a reason to do that, because, did you know the most dreaded time for a speaker to talk is the after lunch slot? Mostly stomachs are full and minds are drifting, and all anybody wants to do after hearing somebody's biography is
Take a nap.
take a nap. And sometimes even speakers would like to do that. So, one way to get your attention back on track is to do a game. And this is one of my favorite games I've used with other theater groups. And this is called Fairy Tale Kingdom. So everybody needs to stand up. Even though this group is really more lively than some. And little exercise involves. And I hope I don't have to use my leg to hurt anybody, but anyway. What this does is it warms up your voices, it emphasizes diction, and it emphasizes where sound comes from in your body. So, I'm going to do it first, and then you all get to do it. So the first character in our fairy tale kingdom is the giant. So you put your hand underneath your rib cage, that's your diaphragm, and you should feel vibration there. Now the giant has a deep voice and he's fearless. And he says, fee, fi, fo, fum. We don't do the blood of a Englishman there. But anyway, okay, so everybody?
Fee,
fi,
fo, fum.
Good. Okay, the next character is the king. Now, you put your hand on your chest, and the king says, I rule the kingdom.
I rule the
Now,
kingdom.
you should be feeling vibrations here. If you aren't, your hand's wrong, or there is something wrong with you. Okay, now the prince is eager to please, and he hopes to rule the kingdom someday. So he says, you put your hands beside your mouth, and what he says is, I will slay the dragon, father. You don't have to close your eyes, I just did that from memory. Okay, so you all say,
I will slay the dragon, father.
Feel a little vibration there?
I'm just saying, if like my son did it to me like that, I would doubt that he would actually slay the dragon. I would slay the dragon, father.
Okay, we're not judgmental here. Okay, the princess who's younger, of course, wants to get her 2 cents in. And so you put your head on your forehead, and she says, I will slay, wait, sorry, she's a young voice. I will slay the dragon too.
I will slay the dragon too.
Now it's interesting, you do feel a little vibration, but only when you raise your voice. Okay, who's missing from our fairy tale kingdom?
The
Queen,
Dragon.
queen.
No dragon. It's the Wicked Witch.
Uh-oh.
The queen is on holiday.
Poor queen.
So,
Yeah.
you put your fingers beside your nose. Now don't squeeze, you want a nasal voice. And you say, have an apple, dearie.
Have an apple, dearie.
I'm hearing someone is not nasal. Who is it? Say it again.
Have an apple, dearie.
Good. Okay, so the fun part of this, it's also a memory game. I'm going to say the character, and then I want you to put your hand where it should go for the vibration and say the words. You all know the words. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I rule the kingdom. I will slay the dragon father. I
will
slay the dragon too.
yes, and the last one.
Have an apple, dearie.
Yeah, my dear.
My dear.
I know. I want to say dearie.
I don't know.
I can't keep changing it. Okay, everybody, let's do the prince first.
I will slay the dragon father.
That's good. That's good. Okay, the young princess.
I will slay the dragon too.
You guys are too good at this. Okay, how about the king?
I
will
rule
the
kingdom.
That's good. It's hard to remember sometimes. And the last one, the giant.
Fee, fi, fo, fum.
That's good. You're very good, very good. Even some younger kids can't get it all together at once.
That's
Okay.
because I'm sitting back here and I can see what you're
Yes.
doing. I just love to see what everybody's
That-
doing. It's
Okay,
like,
well, the
yeah.
prizes will be handed out at the end of the
Yeah.
speech. Okay, you may sit down. And I hope you can keep awake. And I'm gonna tell you that, I can't give you my A game today because my allergies have just been bad the couple days and my nose keeps running now. And then you do have to be on drugs. And drugs can mess with your mind. But it's sinus medication. It's nothing.
Sure it is.
Oh, indeed it is. If it wasn't, you'd see a whole new Carol. I'd probably be dancing.
And the steel cage.
Oh, no, my gosh. Okay, everyone here has experience either as a musician, a vocalist, a public speaker, or a multimedia specialist. How do you like that? Gave you some credit there. Okay, some of you are professionals in your field already, and some are blessed with more than one talent. But all of you kindly and unselfishly donate your talents to our worship services. Both. You've been in both. So, you're probably thinking or have thought, Carol's going to talk to us about stage presence? Seriously? Why? We already have been performing as a worship team for years. What can she tell us that we don't already know? I have to tell you, I'd probably be asking that myself if I was sitting where you are. But I'm sure, like me, you look for ways to improve your role. All of you play a critical role in leading morning sermon worship. Many of you have already probably learned Stage Presence 101, so just consider this a refresher course. Based on my studies plus experience in performing arts and worship arts, I hope your takeaway will enhance your morning psalm worship and ultimately your worshipers. Because isn't that what it's all about? It's not me-me's, it's them-me's. That's a new word, people. Anyway, years ago, my speech professor at F&M taught us and reminded us over and over that when you stop learning, you stop growing. Here's a quote I love. It's a famous quote by UCLA basketball coach John Wooden, who said, "It's what you learn after you know it all that really counts." Learning is a lifetime journey. At 87 years of age, Michelangelo, the famous artist and sculptor, said, "I'm still learning." Amazing. And here, me at 39, I'm still learning. I can relate to that. Even as a seasoned professional, I love being challenged to learn new things. Isn't life boring if we do the same old thing and know the same old thing over and over? Granted, some of the new things today can be challenging and we may not agree with them, but still, we want to learn and grow in all areas. So what is stage presence? Does anybody have a definition? Short. Okay, time's up. So anyway, the Oxford Dictionary describes it as the ability to command the attention of an audience by the impressiveness of one's manner or appearance. I'm sorry, if my nose drips down, I promise I will catch it. It's when a person, does this remind you of Jeff Rill? I really can relate to him now.
You're right.
It was like a obsessive thing,
Every time you speak, you have
every
that.
time you speak, yes.
Well, now there's a good call. Jeff Rill. Okay,
Yeah.
so stage presence is when a person has mastered singing, acting, or speaking in a manner appealing to an audience. Now, for church worship, stage presence is just a little different. It's the ability to lead and inspire people with sincerity and passion to worship. In worship arts, stage presence enhances talent. It's a powerful tool for worship leaders, vocalists, and musicians. Worship leader and musician Steve Flatten believes stage presence is a crucial missing ingredient in today's worship settings. Why? A lot of times it's because smaller churches don't have the resources to support a worship arts director who can coach a worship team. For over 18 years as director of the LCOB Performing Arts, our church had a core group of actors who learned ground up about stage presence. And you know, 2 of them are here today. And oh my gosh, I did the one thing you're not supposed to do. You're never supposed to go, that is so annoying. But I did that so that you would understand. Anyway, back to the group. The dinner theater earned a reputation for a talented group of actors performing community theater in a church. It drew a lot of people in, a lot of seekers, a lot of non-believers from all over the county. I forget, it's like 8 states and anyway, and many counties in Pennsylvania. And those who have worked with me in worship arts, even some of you other ones know, I always expect your best. Some have disagreed with me and said, well, I'm not so tough like that, but I think you should be. God gave you the talent, and I think he deserves our very best effort, especially in the house of God. And I still try to abide by that today. And I'm a perfectionist, so it makes me crazy. As author and poet Maya Angelou once said, do the best you can until you know better. When you know better, do better. Many of those actors were once in the worship team. In fact, I think the whole worship team was involved in dinner theater. Claire did sound. Claire and I sang together one time. I sang off key, he sang on key. I thought I probably didn't know I couldn't sing. But anyway, those that are still part of the team, the few, Tim Dunbar, anyway, they still, and you can see it, their stage presence is still reflecting in what they do in morning song worship. Why does stage presence matter in worship? Well, it reflects how people worship, how people are to worship. Does the way you look, speak, outward appearance, and presentation matter? Contrary to popular belief, it does. If you're wearing a top, ladies, that has your breasts bulging out, or a guy with a tight shirt showing your 6-pack of abs, oh, I would love that.
I was gonna say, that's a problem.
It's distracting. It is distracting. And people already come to worship with a variety of distractions. Bill is still thinking about the car that cut him off in traffic on the way to church. Angela's worrying about the dinner she's going to cook for her family after church. Young Bill can only see pitching a no-hitter in a baseball game. And of course, little Sally just can't get away from her Instagram account. So this is what you're conflicting. This is a conflict for you. Your job is to grab their attention, and the music team knows this. One of the best ways to grab their attention is to have upbeat praise music to lead off your service. That gets people energized, gets their mind on what's going to come next. So you don't want to put them asleep after you got them excited. You need stage presence is through sound, appearance, and movement. Now that doesn't mean you act crazy on the stage and run all over, but you don't have to stand like logs either, and I'll get into that a little later. Stage presence is all about communication, and as Bob says, it's all about connection in words and body language. For worship leaders, the words you say matter as much as the way you say them. Have you listened to a recording of yourself? Do you like what you hear? The first time I heard myself on a tape recorder in high school, I thought there was definitely something wrong with that recorder. But thanks to a school theater director, I learned how to improve my speaking and acting voice. I was always blessed with good speech in later life. When I started talking, I was so shy and wouldn't talk for many years. I know that's hard to believe, but and then I also had a voice coach and was trained there, and that improved it. But there's so many little basic voice and training trips that can make a difference. Speaking slowly with proper enunciation is important, but you don't want to speak so slowly that people think either there's something wrong with you or they're idiots and don't understand. Speaking too fast, some people will never get what you're saying, so they don't care what you say because they're never going to hear it. That was pretty good. Okay. I can understand what I said. If you mumble, and we all know mumblers. Mumblers shouldn't be on a stage anywhere because who wants to hear somebody who mumbles all the time? You know? And the other thing, if you speak too quietly, well, you really are a good worship team. You lose the audience. They just won't pay attention anymore. They're going to start looking at their phones, doing whatever. And if people can't understand or hear what you say or sing, why say or sing it? I hope we're not keeping you up or anything. That's okay, I'm used to that, I do it myself. Okay, using a microphone. Voice projection today is sometimes lost due to electronic amplification. Some of our best celebrities sound so good because of that amplification. So you should still learn to project. Worship arts people know that was a big thing with me. Just project. What if that microphone doesn't work? Can they, look at today. What if I couldn't project? You probably couldn't hear me. But Bob knew that no mic was necessary. We share that together. So you do want to project. If you're going to speak or sing, project. Learn to project. And how you hold the mic can make a difference also. Nobody wants to hear those piercing feedback sounds. So how should a speaker hold a mic? Who knows?
Well, it doesn't really matter how you hold a mic, as long as you don't point it at a speaker, you won't get feedback.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
but-
mean the person speaking, I mean an actual loudspeaker.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
this-
really,
This is true.
really, the key for speakers is 2 fingers from your mouth
Mhm.
and a hand from here if you're a speaker like me who can project. And musicians have the luxury of going like this. Don't do it as a speaker. First of all, they can't see you. They might think there's something wrong with your mouth or teeth. And also, the amplification is different. You don't want mufflers. So gestures, facial expressions, and postures all matter also. And sometimes you have so much to remember, like what you're going to say, what you're going to sing, that your posture can go south. But if you concentrated on it, it helps. Good posture reflects confidence. And did you know that body language accounts for 60 to 90% of our communication? It really tells a lot about you. So someone who nervously looks around before speaking or performing, you know, the person that goes like this. What do you think? They're shady, they're sly. What are they up to? And the people that, you know, rock back and forth. You can do that if you're a musician, but you wouldn't just shift back and forth if you're speaking. If you want to be taken seriously. Or the people that stand wide-eyed, straight ahead. What do you think? Like a deer in headline. Do I look like I have confidence and that you should listen to everything I say? And I've seen people do that, even in Morning Psalm years ago. But, and it's not unusual for new worship leaders or singers to get stage fright, new ones. That's typical, but with encouragement from the team, it can easily be overcome. Lauren knows, the only thing I said to her one time was smile, because just smile, even if you're scared, smile. I mean, people won't take you to task unless you're smiling and they're talking about somebody who just passed away. You know, you might not want to do that. Lady Bird Johnson, she was the first lady of the 36th president. Boy, this is dating me. Who was that? Do you know?
Linda.
Well, that was easy because I said Lady Bird. Anyhow, she gave good advice. She said, the way you overcome shyness is to become so wrapped up in what you're doing, you have no reason to be afraid. And I think in worship of our God, it is so easy to be wrapped up in that worship. And if you think about that, it's a good way to get over stage fright. Now, all of us lose our train of thought while speaking. Even as worship leaders, we may have to find our place. So unlike the little test I gave you earlier, you never want to say, stand there and go, Instead, a better way is to just smile, look at your audience, just pause until you get it back again. They'll just think they missed something that you said earlier. And it'll be on them, not you. And we know those. I actually saw somebody interviewed on TV the other day. And this person kept going, And you know, after somebody does that so often, again, you're not listening anymore. It's so easily to take us away from what's going on. Leading worship, again, and I cannot impress you enough, is about connecting with your audience. Connecting with your audience. You can't do that staring at this projection screen, words in the back. You can't do that playing your instrument and always looking down. Just try to look up on occasion and try to smile. Look like you're not bored or angry or wish you weren't there.
Hear that, Dean?
You have a great smile, Dean. You do.
He tells me bass players don't smile.
But they should in worship. And I've gone to enough contemporary worship services locally and out of state, and those musicians are smiling. Now, granted, there's times when you don't want to be up there, you know, laughing and gawking around while everybody else is serious. But connect with the audience. Look up. Just, you know, hey, you don't have to smile, but look at them. Connect. Have some eye contact. You can read your notes, worship leaders, that's okay. But don't be staring down the whole time. No matter how many times you smile, looking down, people want to connect with you. They feel like they're losing you. It's not always easy, I do know that, but it's good. Now, what to do with your hands? Well, if you're using a lecture, a lectern, you can put your hands on it. Sometimes when I'm reading scripture, especially in church, in traditional, I will put my hands here because Bob tends to have passages that are 25 or 35 verses long, and you're afraid you'll get on. And there was one time years ago where I did lose my train, and somebody yelled out, 24, verse 24. I'll never forget that. It was so embarrassing.
Yeah, but they were following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They obviously,
They
it
were
just would have
too.
given me a minute. Maybe I should just smile and then back to it. I'll never forget that. That made me keep my hands on it. Now, a big pet peeve of mine is speakers who talk to this side. Hello, nice to see you. And the Bible says we should always be kind to one another. But these over here are not really as kind as these over here. What happened to the people in the middle? I have had this happen to me, and I've even said to a speaker afterwards, were you trying to ignore me? I was sitting in the middle. So you just want to try to divide your time in sections. That's not always easy either, is it, Bob? Looking straight ahead kind of helps. Hand gestures. I'm probably doing more gestures and rocking than I normally do. Again, knows Advil does it to you every time. But you need to keep hand gestures at a minimum. For me, the adage, he flailed his arms so much I couldn't hear a word he said. It's true. I knew a high school teacher who waved his hands, who at the beginning of every school year with new students, he waved his hands purposely. Here's what he did. Welcome to all of you new students. I'm so glad. How many of there are you? Well, I'm not sure. I'm so glad to see all of you. And he went on and on and on, and it was to make a point. He was missing his one finger. Literally. And every time he did this, they could all tell him that he was missing his third finger, but very few could remember a word he said. And I was told just this week that he still does that. But some of the kids have gotten a little smarter. I think they're recording. And facial expressions amplify your feelings. That's why I said if you lack an expressive face, and I don't think any of you do, but if you do, they tell you to look in a mirror, smile, frown, look surprised, to practice. Get your face unfrozen. Some worship art directors, especially in megachurches, require their singers and musicians to memorize their music. Dan Smith, Community Fellowship Church Worship Arts Director in Lancaster, strongly encourages both vocalists and instruments to memorize music. And I'm going to tell you why. He says being less locked into the music stand or words on a screen gives musicians and singers more freedom to worship.
True story.
Thank you, Elby. Okay, Smith and Flatten both advocate for singers and musicians to, again, connect with the audience instead of staring at their music stands or that. It's so easy just to stare at that back screen. You can look at the back screen, that's what it's there for, but, look around. The worship arts people know how to look at something and kind of look at the next sentence so they know ahead. They don't have to keep looking down. It's very easy to do after you practice it a couple times. Okay, seeing a video, and I will never look at this one, of your performance can be a real learning point. I never liked videos of myself. There's a few dinner theaters I'd like because I wasn't me. That, playing a character is easy. Look at your posture. What's your expression? Does your voice sound good? Are you connecting with the audience? As worship leaders, you are looking at what am I saying here? As worship leader, are you looking at the audience or only looking at the band, at the stand, at the screen? Viewing yourself, and you're recorded every week, correct? Looking at yourself, you will see what you're projecting. Not what you think you're projecting, but what you're projecting in reality. Sometimes it's quite shocking. Trust me, and nobody does anything bad that you'd ever have to worry about that. But it's, you can perk it up a little bit. I've been surprised so many times I can't tell you. It's like I think there's something wrong with the videographer. But anyway, are you happy with what you see projected? And maybe you are. Maybe you've done it so well. Many of you have done this for years, and maybe it's just, hey, it just confirms what you're doing. No one expects you to be perfect, but a healthy self-evaluation can most times lead to a better stage presence the next time. You know, it's all right to show physical expression on stage, and many of you do. You can clap, you can raise your arms, and don't be afraid that the audience isn't doing it with you. I did hear one singer one time say, well, I just don't understand what's wrong with our dead audience. They will never clap or raise their hands. Well, not everybody's comfortable worshiping that way. And studies show that worshipers only do half of the expressions that a music team does with raising the hands and clapping. Mark Batterson, author and lead pastor of National Community Church in Washington, D.C. They have 17 churches in theaters across the metro area. He says worship teams need to connect on every level with worshipers. Improving your stage presence is the key to finding that connection through music and words. Billy Graham once said, the highest form of worship is the worship of unselfish Christian service. The greatest form of praise is the sound of consecrated feet seeking out the lost and the hopeless. This is what you as a worship team do every Sunday. Keep up the good work, and God bless you.
Okay,
Thank you, Carol.
thanks.
Thank you, Carol.
Is everybody still awake? I know now I'm tired.
I think one of the things that I observe both in traditional and contemporary worship service a lot of times is, you know, when you have a praise song, you know, the thing I hate is, the choir is singing glory, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah. You know what I mean? It doesn't show in their face, and it just doesn't inspire you. You know what I mean? So I think when we have praise music, it needs to kind of flow through our eyes and our expressions, you know, that, and like I say, it's not just contemporary, I see it all over the place, traditional, contemporary, where it doesn't matter what it is. If our faces don't show what we're singing, it just lessens the impact, I think, you know what I mean? If you're singing a praise song with a sad look, it's like it's not authentic or something, I don't know. So somehow or other, just.
Lisa's really good at that. I like when you sing, because
Yes.
you always look so happy
Yep.
when you sing.
She
You
always does it.
you're so into it. And it's showing.
She cares.
And somehow you just have, sometimes you have to kind of pray, get yourself into it. I know at Quartet we're always saying to ourselves, in this male quartet, I think, you know, that we're getting it, we gotta, like I said, show it through our eyes, you know, that I think that's.
Look at people. I find out that people like you to look at them in their eyes,
Yeah.
you know.
And it doesn't mean that you don't have music or you have to
No.
memorize everything. I'm a terrible memorizer. I don't
He is.
memorize well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you can at least just glance down and up, you know,
Yes.
Yeah.
like you're saying, to not be so tied into the text. At least for me in preaching, I try not to be tied to my text, although I do have a manuscript, but you know, I try to go over it enough that hopefully I'm able to look around.
And that's called being prepared. I've said this before in other things. you know, you don't just read it once and then go in, read the scripture once or what you're gonna say once and then walk into the service. I remember one time Tim Dunbar only read for a combined service the scripture he was to read one time. He admitted that. And he bumbled through that. And it was very apparent there was no preparation. People can tell when you prepare.
I think it's really good. I've taught preaching several times, and one of the things, and I do this myself, even though I have a manuscript, I will not get up and preach it unless I probably have read it through 10 times. I mean, it's the last thing I do before I go to bed, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning. I take my sermon with me. My kids are always hounding me, you're gonna take your sermon to this concert, but I kind of want to live with it, to hopefully try and do that. The other thing with scripture is this. I think one of the things, and I see this sometimes, and I don't know how you want to do it, particularly in the traditional service, we have the Bibles in the pews. I think rather than just get up and start reading, give people an opportunity to turn to the scripture. Sometimes people have Bibles with them or they have their iPhones and they like to follow along. Now we put it up on the screen sometimes, and I think what we said one time is if you're going to do that,
It needs to match.
it needs to match. Don't read one thing and the screen has something else. That's
why they have to learn to put that in the planning setting.
Yeah, because that is a horrible disconnect. Now, what we've been doing normally is using the New Revised Standard Version. At least that since I've been here, and the reason I do that is because that is what the Pew Bibles are, and that is what's in there.
Why don't we have the Pew Bibles?
Our
I
Pew
think
Bibles,
have
our Pew Bibles are not the NRSV.
And they're not the ones for Morning Psalm
They're not
are
the
NIV.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
They're
And
not
so
the
I think we
NIV
should not have
either.
two
They're
different
not the
versions in the
They're
church.
the new NIV or something.
Yeah, the NRSV.
No, it's
No, they're not that.
it's
No.
NIV.
Just
Yeah.
straight NIV.
But see, I think we're in trouble if we have one scripture in one place and another. And I think we have to agree in the church. This is the normative scripture we're going to use.
Recently, what we've been doing is online putting NRSV version so that the media
Yeah, most
person
people have
knows.
started to do that.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to be
I
doing.
think that's good.
If we
Yeah.
put
Do
what
that.
version, the.
Otherwise,
Well-
it can be confusing
Yeah.
or even disconcerting if you're reading one thing and something else is up on the
This has
screen.
been 5 years we've been working on
I
this.
never
and still
really
a lot
thought
of
about
confusion.
it, but if that happens, you probably should just read what's on the screen.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, right, because that
If you
is,
see that it's not the same, you should
Exactly.
probably read what
But I
is
remember
there.
years ago in Morning Psalm when they didn't have it on the screen and the worship leader was reading one version and people were, that when they wanted everybody to use the Bible,
Yeah, it's so
it was
confusing.
totally different.
That's because the
Yeah,
worship leader
that's-
thought it was NRSV, which is in the traditional, but the Morning Psalm doesn't have
Yeah.
NRSV.
And they did
so.
that
Yeah.
several weeks, it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
kind of annoying, you think,
Yeah.
well,
Again, it's still not all clear,
Place
people
that way.
still.
Yeah.
so I basically have used the NRSV for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's the Pew Bible. Number two, the NRSV is based on the RSV, which was basically the King James, and a lot of people, older people, grew up King James. But the New Revised Standard got rid of all the Elizabethan language. The New Revised Standard got rid of the sexist language. So when you heard me read today, I want you to be fishers of people, and originally I want you to be fishers of men. But the Greek did not say men particularly; it meant people.
Everyone.
And so I think I'm very sensitive to, but I still believe that we don't want to change scripture. In other words, if it's clearly a male thing, then it needs to be male. But if it is meant to be generic, then I don't want to just say men. Because I think in our culture today, we don't talk that way. It's a more inclusive, so the NRSV is more of an inclusive one. And that's why I like it. So for me, if I'm going to preach in traditional, and that's what they have in the Pew Bibles, then my references are going to be NRSV in my sermon.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to confuse people. And if I'm coming down to morning, then I want to be consistent. I don't know.
We
Right, but it's
basically
still-
gone NRSV
But it's still
for
frustrating that we don't have Bibles.
That's
Yeah.
what I.
Like
thought.
you know what I'm saying,
Why don't
we
have
used to put Bibles out every week,
Well, that's
and
'cause they're
I
not
feel like
NRSV,
that's
that's the
something
reason.
that
They're not
we're
NRSV.
missing.
Now, when did that go?
It's 'cause they're
I
not.
don't know.
A couple
Well,
years ago.
okay, wait, but they're not NRSV,
There
that's the
always
problem.
been Bibles.
Why do you need Bibles if you're projecting all the scriptures on?
And-
It's not always projected.
And-
If it was always projected, then we wouldn't need the
Well, it
Bibles.
is.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's
Most of
not.
the time.
Sometimes we're shooting.
Mostly it is.
Most of the time it is. And
Most
it's,
of
I understand
some
there's
the only
a
problem
importance
is,
of importance of.
it's not NRSV,
Yeah.
so.
Sometimes
We've
worship
kind of
leaders
decided
say
just
they
to
don't
do
want
all
that.
NRSV, like you said.
Yeah.
But there's still that fundamental problem that our Bibles aren't NRSV down there, so. I just do everything NRSV and just kind of forget
But then I
about it.
think we need to make a conscious decision to always project it, which we do not always do.
I
don't
think
know why.
mostly, but some Sundays it is not. And the other thing is, and you probably noticed this too, when I quote scripture in my sermon, I like it projected up so everybody can actually see the scripture reference. And for me, that's important.
Yeah, I
But-
agree. I don't know why it's not being projected, but anyways.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I think sometimes I've done it already if I don't know what version they're using, if nobody's given me
Just
that
do it all
information,
NRSV,
I won't
just
but
put
I'm
it up.
pretty.
But it's been
I
pretty
give
good
you the
lately.
whole manuscript thing.
But especially just, I would say with warning song, because we don't have things lined out. If a worship leader is using a certain scripture, even if you don't have the version of it written out, just what the scripture verse is. So if someone's
Well,
sitting
yeah,
there
I usually
can
do
know
that,
it,
yeah,
Yeah.
I usually do that.
But I think as a worship leader, making sure that you've got that information, so you
Yeah.
know if you're gonna mention that
Yeah.
scripture verse.
Everyone
But
should
it
just
does-
do
Yeah, and if
NRSV,
you're
it's
doing it
just
in the
all
sermon,
good.
I take it right out of your sermon there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Always.
whatever is in the sermon,
Yeah, you guys-
is
I'm
what we
pretty-
put up, yeah.
Pretty
Yeah, you
precise.
Yeah.
But anyway, so any other things you want to mention to Carol or about this whole thing of stage presence? I think the way we conduct ourselves, it does
And
have
if
a
you wanna
lot.
talk to me in private, you can call.
Okay, good. Well,
All these youth are doing this stuff tomorrow and thinking, oh my gosh, they're never gonna be ready for this. Like, oh well, everybody's gonna be totally frustrated because these kids are gonna be standing there reading their paper and thinking that.
So you need Carol
And I'm
to
just
talk to
happy,
them,
honestly,
right?
and I'm gonna introduce it that way because I just want them to be happy that they're standing
I
up and
used
Yes.
doing
to
things.
talk, some of your people were great. I mean, wait, not your people. Gosh.
Your people.
All the youth that were in dinner theater that learned stage presence, when they did Youth Sunday, you could tell the difference.
Sure.
But then after a while, when we stopped dinner theater, I saw some of those same kids. All of a sudden, they couldn't look up. And see, they no longer had that focus.
Yeah.
The leaders
And that
after
takes
you.
time, and that means you have to,
in preparation.
right now we just focus on getting them to share.
Yeah, right.
Yes. We're not there yet. We wanna go there.
I'd be happy to come and talk to them.
Yeah. When we get there.
And here's
Like,
the trick I use. I directed the children's choir here in church. I had kindergarten through third grade, 25 kids. They were absolutely fantastic singers. But when they sit in the sanctuary, I'd say, now, when you sing, you are not singing to me. You're singing to the little old lady on the back row of the balcony. You know, I said, you want her to be able to hear. And, that's how those kids learn to project. And when those kids sang, they projected their voices. So a lot of it's voice projection and just telling, where's your focus? Are you focusing down here? Focusing here? No, I'm focusing back there on the podium. That's the person I'm speaking to.
But I found, Bob, and I don't think I said this, if I have high expectations in worship arts when I lead anything. And if people know that you have high expectations, you don't want to be freaked out. It's just, I expect you to do your best. They always exceed my expectations. You just need to kind of plant that seed.
And it's unfortunate that public schools have let us down too. I mean,
That's right.
when
I read an article
years
about
even before my time, they used to teach elocution.
Did they have school then? Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Getting close.
Wonderful school,
They
wonderful
started it.
But that would be something that was typical part of the curriculum. You had to learn how to speak. Today
Yes.
we don't do that. Or public
Barely even do hands
No.
cursive handwriting.
We had public
Yeah, that's
speaking
when the
classes
cursive
when I was
writing
in high
was-
school, but they used to have a class called elocution, that would just help you how to speak, how to project.
I like how you mispronounced the word elocution.
Yeah, right, that's the first part. But today it's all changed also because of microphones too, you know what I mean? And
That's what I said,
that
yes.
changes,
But
everything because, it's not as important that I have to have that person here back there. Now if I have a microphone, it'll project your voice.
Yeah.
But then you have to know how to use a microphone.
Yeah, and one thing.
Yeah.
And what I
You have
hate
to
is,
have
and
good
this is what I hear
sound
people say, they'll have, and when we are doing, you know what I mean, they have the microphone over here.
I
No,
hate that
the microphone's
puffing.
here.
I
You
should
know?
have done that.
When they move it away from the mouth.
Yeah, also, if you speak directly, if you have it directly, then you're gonna get that pop, even with a wind guard or a shield, so you
Yeah.
wanna kind of go across the, right, Albie, is that?
Oh,
but it also
Kinda
with some of
go
the
across,
sound
like,
people
if you have it
that-
directly,
Yeah, you don't
got
want
it.
But everybody's
Like an ice
different.
cream cone.
Some of those
You won't get-
microphones, if you
also
don't
the
have it
EQ.
like down here, it doesn't pick you up. Some of
Well,
the
the EQ.
other like lapel mics, You know, as soon as you turn your head, it
Yes.
doesn't hear you.
Yeah.
Like,
See, now that's the problem with that, because, see,
Yeah.
if
That's
I,
right.
no, if I hate when I have that lapel thing on, because as soon as I turn over here, it doesn't pick up my voice.
That's
Now, I'm trying to look at these people, and then the mic is here,
Yeah.
but the mic that I have now, what they give me, which I really love, has that double thing, because I keep, some places I go, I have this one thing, and it's
The
always
one
going to
thing,
fall off my
yeah.
ear.
Yeah.
That thing is really great, it's right
It
there,
is, it
and so
is.
if I'm turning over here, the microphone's turning with me, you know? So it makes me nervous when I have a lapel mic.
Are we placing them in the right place? They should be
Well, you
down
use-
farther.
you
too,
use the
like
lap
here,
down like
here.
Should be down.
Yeah, down, and also
way
the
down.
sound
Send
person
your
needs
mouth.
to adjust it.
But see, that's one of those
If it's
things
up
where
here,
it takes
it's
the
like
time
that.
for somebody has to come in ahead of time before the service. Whoever's speaking gets mic'd up and
Well, they
can
do it in
look at-
traditional.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just,
We
it's
have-
just,
we
there's
set
some
aside that
habits,
time.
there's some habits that
Yeah.
would be,
There's a lot of stuff that's being
that
done
would be
wrong
very,
too.
Yep.
very
Still in
useful.
traditional, the sound,
See,
it's
that was-
just
I
being
know.
done
Part of
wrong.
the
So
scale.
sound
I
checks are
always
very
did that.
important,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that you
Yep,
have a good
I
sound
always do
check
sound check.
system.
Anyways, that's.
Anyway, so,
But hey,
okay,
Bob, I have to tell a funny story.
Go ahead.
Just Lisa and Matt, do you remember when we did one dinner theater and we had, everybody had the, you know, the little
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mics attached to you? And for some reason, Tim Hack sat on his pack and it was screeched and we couldn't hear him. Everybody else is loud. Remember that? That was
Yeah,
embarrassing. More so for him than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But things can happen, so if you, and he could project without it.
yeah,
You know, he has a loud voice, so if, I always teach my students in other churches I work with and with the school district I work with, learn to project.
and it's different for men and women. Generally, women have more difficulty just because the men's voice is lower and has a deeper resonance, so women have to work harder
Oh,
sometimes.
you don't want those high voices?
Yeah, to project.
You and
sometimes it's
Don
harder.
have good voices.
So anyway, okay, great. Now, what I want to do next couple minutes here is just to talk about a couple things. For this, I rejoice. As we think about morning psalm, about our worship together, what are some of the things that we want to praise God for? So I'm just going to list a couple things, so call them out.
Just bringing us all there in the first place.
What's that?
Bringing us all there in the first place.
The retreat
Stop
meeting
it.
today.
Be together.
Okay, retreat today.
the commitment and heart of the volunteers.
I told you my writing is awful. Okay,
The support and encouragement amongst the members.
And you mean team members, Lauren?
Mhm.
Okay, I would also say the support of the worshipers.
Yeah.
Because if nobody came, you'd be alone up there on the stage.
And a lot of support comes from the congregation afterwards and talking about the service.
yeah, and do you hear that? I mean, do you know, do people come up to you and talk to you and say, because I think that's so important, it's so encouraging to have that, this encouragement is so important. You know,
But
one
we
of,
don't often do it.
No.
I hate to say that. People who are known, let me use Claire. Claire, you're such a good guitar player. But sometimes people feel to say that you're a good musician because they think you know. You know, I wrote about this before. People
Oh, I do
sometimes
know.
don't. It's always good to hear it.
Yeah,
Do we have the humility session going?
Sorry, your feathers are ruffling this way.
well, the other thing is, I just see as a church, as a church total, I will say, I think Lancaster does not do as good a job as they could on encouragement. And I tried to put encouragement cards out. At Love Feast, you know, we had, during the meal, to write something to be a blessing to someone. You know, we had 79 of those cards filled out. I put them in people's mailboxes. I thought that was really great, that 79 people took a chance to say, this is something I appreciate or that I want to bless someone for doing in our church. But there are just more ways to do it. Let me tell you, for instance, and you know, I want to be careful, I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but I don't know that we did, and maybe you did, the the last week of April was Administrative Assistant Appreciation Day. I don't know that ever anything was done. Well, this year we took Linda and Tiffany out for lunch.
That's wonderful.
You know what I mean? I just think there are things like that we.
Well, there used to be a staff thing, because when I was on staff, we all went out.
Well, yeah, and we do that too, but I'm saying to give special appreciation to certain people for what they do, you know, on things. Or the month of October is Pastor Appreciation Month. That is, yes, and like I said, I just hesitant to say it, but I mean, you would not believe all the stuff that came my, I mean, they would have special presentations of people making pies, the children made cards. It was just over the top. Lancaster, nothing.
Well, we used to have a volunteer dinner, I only remember one, to thank all the volunteers. We don't do anything like that.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. I think we need as a church to do, and I'm not trying to say it for me. I'm just saying for people, we need just, I think, more of an appreciation, encouragement type of thing. Because that's what gets people excited to do more or better. You know what I mean? When you hear.
Well, you can feel like people don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
I've felt that often, like,
Well,
they don't give a rip what I do.
but just
But I'm not doing it for them.
No, and you don't do it. And you don't do it to get praise from people. I'm just saying it goes a long way.
It does.
Especially as people are just starting out. If you have a new person, and wow, the encouragement you give them just helps them to want to do more. And I just think we, as a church, we just need to be doing more of that. And I thought, like I said, I thought we were doing pretty good with Tiffany and Linda. But the email I got from the Lititz church was, this is Pastor Appreciation Month, on an email to every member. Send her a note how much you appreciate her, you know, to the whole congregation. I just thought, wow, that's cool. You know, it just, I don't know. I just think there needs to be more of that spirit. So, yeah.
Well, one thing, I'm as guilty of this as a lot of other people. Maybe at the end, like not just you standing at the door, but the band and the singers out there too.
Yeah.
Because I notice a lot of times we're just in such a hurry to pack up, or this is why a lot of times we don't do postlude anymore. Because by the time we got through the postlude, everybody's gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any way we could do that.
Well,
or-
I think too, come out and or just come out and mingle with the people if you can, you know what I mean? I think that just
Be
is
approachable.
is a good thing to do. And, you know, and of course, everybody's personality is different, and some people aren't comfortable doing that. I tell the story of, I was a group of, there were 6 Brethern pastors sitting around the table, and 5 of them were introverts. I was the only extrovert at the table. But what was fascinating to me was to hear the stories. The one guy said, do you know what I absolutely hate on a Sunday morning? This is pastor greeting people. I said, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? But it shows a difference. An introvert will tend to want to, you know, withdraw. An extrovert is just kind of, you know, oh man, I love to be talking to people, and you know, that's how you get your energy. So what gives energy to an extrovert depletes an introvert, and that was one of the big learnings that I learned.
But I dispute that. I am an introvert. I've been tested. Yes, I've learned to overcome it
Okay.
by being more of an extrovert.
You're an
I'm gonna test your
extroverted introvert.
introversion, though.
There's all sorts of
Definitely.
personality.
You can be
in
both.
it.
It's true though, because Todd is an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people who would say he's extroverted because he's kind of learned how to be that, but he is an extroverted
That's right.
introvert,
Brian
and I'm an
is too.
introverted extrovert.
And there's
So we
many-
work very
many-
well together.
Many celebrities who
yeah.
are that
I'm
way.
like both.
Yeah.
You know what I think would be interesting, this is kind of a side note, but you know, that's me. So I think it would be cool as part of a team building thing if we did some simple, basic kinds of personality inventory type things
What about
to
ropes?
learn. No, to learn more about each other, because I think, and this is the social work
As long
side
as
of
we
me,
stay on the
Yeah.
ground.
I think when you understand things about other people's personality that you're on a team
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
it helps you to work with them better.
That is true.
That's a great
Because
idea.
if you're, you know, for me as an extrovert, I have to be really mindful of the team members that I work with who are introverts, and I have to approach them differently. Now that I'm in management, it's a different kind of thing than the people on my team that are extroverts. So and if you don't know, you might, like I said with Todd, people might assume he's an extrovert because when they see him, he seems more social, but he's not. So I think if you understand your team members and some of those quirks, it helps you to work better together.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
We actually
You know,
do
I
that.
wrote that down as a note. I think that would be a good thing for us us
our
included
work,
in the
we all
retreat.
take
Yeah.
a work.
Yeah.
And there are
I like
things that you
that.
can do that aren't
We're all
4 hours.
newsletters.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
you get like a.
Yeah,
Team-
that's a good point. I think, I like that idea for the retreat in October, if we could do a little bit like Michelle said, not 4 hours, I think we're gonna do Myers-Briggs. But I mean, understand
Yeah,
different
Dean,
personality types, how they interact and all that. Dean, yeah.
I think you ought to start a praise team appreciation month.
Maybe we will, maybe we
Next team
will.
appreciation fiscal quarter.
Yeah. Well, music appreciation or music celebration Sunday is one. Now, for instance, and I don't know if they did this, but last year when I did I was preaching, I think, at the music. Thank you, Joanne.
You're quite welcome.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Yes.
Very much.
A plus.
Last year, on Music Appreciation Sunday, I was in the traditional service. And, and during the welcome, I said, we're blessed with some great musicians. Margaret, will you stand up? Emery, you stand up. Choir, stand up. Let's show our appreciation. And I had them all applaud traditional. I don't know if that was sacrilegious. But I thought, we need to show appreciation for people, and just little things like that. I mean, I know people, would say, yeah, we've got a great group, we appreciate people, but showing it physically sometimes is just important. So anyway, how to get off on that. Anyway, okay, for this I rejoice. What are some other things? We have,
How about
we
the
have 4
level-
things up here.
How about the level of just experience and knowledge that we have in this group? And we have a lot of people who've been on the team a long
Yeah.
time and bring a lot of maturity and experience. Those two things aren't always, the
Yeah.
same person.
Yeah, seasoned. Yeah. Okay.
I think we have really a heart to do the right thing, a willingness to do the right thing, to put our own interests aside when the rubber hits the road. It doesn't always appear at face value with that, but it seems like the bottom line, everyone's here to do the right thing and does put that's kind of falls into what Lisa said with the heart of the volunteers and commitment.
Yeah, I think the key there is the heart. Mm-hmm. What are some other things you want to rejoice about? Anything else?
Well, I rejoice that we have a congregation to worship with every weekend. A lot of churches do not.
A receptive congregation, would you say?
Yes.
Enthusiasm.
What's that?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm?
We don't have a lot of wet blankets.
Okay.
Also, just the music, the talent that we have, the instruments, getting to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of churches don't have a drummer, for instance, that adds a lot.
You missed the
Duh.
and
On
experience.
NXT.
That's my opinion.
Thank you. How about just the fact that we have a space, a safe space to worship every week. Not everybody in the world
Yeah.
has that.
Yeah, we're talking about some real basic things here.
Material
Right.
resources too, overall, we're pretty.
And that we're a
pretty well
wealthy
off
church.
overall.
Relatively speaking, that
Yeah.
we, if there's something we need, we can get it typically. I mean, it's not a perfect space, but we're very blessed that we,
We have a lot of resources available.
yes.
Yes. A lot of resources available. I mean, we're talking about getting a consultant in. This isn't like, oh my gosh, where we're going to find money? We can't do this. No, it's just like, okay, yeah, we can do this. Yeah. Anything else?
That we've been given this chance to be in ministry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Very basic, given this chance to be in ministry. Okay.
If I have one more, drama ministry and the dedicated, I mean, we don't have as many people anymore, but I found a couple extra. The newbies that are interested. Drama ministry, because those people that really, they put their hearts into it.
Yeah.
They spend hours memorizing, and they're willing to put themselves out there to do it. And drama ministry is not dead. Even though Willow Creek killed it, it is not dead. That's because Bill Hybels
Yeah.
got a little, went a different direction.
But I think too, for instance, when we did the Reader's Theater, which was, not memorization at Luffy's, but, Carol worked with those people.
They were wonderful, those
And
guys were just,
did really well
And Linda.
in reading those scripts for
and they
Luffy.
set time aside, to rehearse and to learn how to do it better and do it on their own.
And I
People are
appreciate it.
committed, that's part of the committed volunteers.
I appreciate that. Okay.
And I would say that flexibility, as far as the morning psalm congregation, I think they get a lot of different things thrown at them. Hey, let's change up the way the seating is. Hey, let's change up the way this is. There's oftentimes that we have an opportunity to be flexible, and that people have been.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot of complaining about that type of thing. I think there's openness to try new things. Okay, Don, have you been taking notes?
Unofficially.
All right.
You have been doing that.
For that, I rejoice. No. Okay,
Oops.
all right,
You
now,
are the scribe.
let's, man, this is a different erase, look at that.
Oh, that's so
Hey, it's
cool.
still
I'm
nice.
impressed. It's
That is cool, and it actually erased as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magnetic.
That is magnetic, that's cool.
That is
Never
awesome.
saw one of those before.
Okay.
All right, now, we want to look at the other side, and I think on that,
Mine's
I'm gonna couch it like
magnetic
this.
too.
for this I pray. What are some of the things that we really would like to pray for that can move us or change us in some way?
Love for each other. Love for each other.
Okay? More love for each other.
And that involves understanding each other, not preconceived notions.
I'll put these as two different things. Kind of where we're coming from. Part of that is what Michelle was saying too. Sometimes it's just recognizing personality differences, Sometimes that plays a part in that. What are some other things that you want to say?
Better communication, to be sensitive. Did I tell someone this?
I'm going to say maybe consistency. Consistency, let's say, in terms of what we're doing, like from practice and rehearsal to Sunday morning, from the way we want to do things and being consistent. I think we want to change. I think there's opportunity to change things, but I think the consistency helps build team spirit. Some other things you want to pray for.
I think patience for one another and learning.
I want to go back to the vision statement, and that is connecting more people. To the Lord. Inviting people. I think it was started as an outreach thing, seekers. And it just seems.
That being thoroughly biblical in all we do.
Okay, picking up from the vision statement.
Mr. L.
Thoroughly.
Thoroughly.
HOROUGHL.
Thank you.
Y.
Thoroughly.
Yes.
That people are able to see the joy and see Jesus through us, what we do on Sunday.
Okay.
And not just about the music or, performing or putting on a show, but rather our hearts.
Yeah. people be able to see Jesus through us.
And if you're standing there glaring, they don't see that.
Anything else?
Openness to change.
Openness to change?
Practicing my glare.
Oh, you got that down, good.
That's what rock and roll will do for you. Nothing else will give you a good glare.
We smiled, didn't I?
Openness to change. Other things you want to pray for the group. Okay, well, we have a list of some things done. When we're talking about prayer, you want to talk about the prayer piece that
Yes, we handed out email and then also handed out little sheets about prayer partners.
Wait, Don, stop.
Stop.
Oh,
I'm gonna take a picture of it.
I'm sorry.
You can take a picture of the first one.
What was the
I
first
did
one I
not, but
said?
I
I was just gonna
It's
do
all
that.
Openness to change.
It's
It's on
on
the
video
video.
too.
Oh,
good,
it's on
we
there
have
too.
video.
Probably go on unlisted YouTube thing is probably the best way to share it.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks, Albie.
All right.
So,
Don,
so can I ask a question,
Yeah.
Don? So, are people that not here going to see what was done?
we're going to tell them that we have made a video of the presentation part, not everything we did today, not the devotion group, but yes, and I'm hoping that they will avail themselves of this. As Merle and I were talking, we realized not everybody's going to be here, and he said, what do you do? Well, we just couldn't find a date that suited everybody. So then we thought, well, maybe if we video it and say, if you're willing to look at this, this is kind of what we discussed today, and at least they can feel like they're a part of it.
The
Yeah.
best way is probably to make, this is what I do often, is to make an unlisted YouTube link, which means it doesn't show up in any searches or anything. So you have to have that exact long, huge link to click on it to get to it. And then what you do is just send an email out to all the members with the link on. And that's an easy way for anyone to watch it anytime on any device or anything.
So again, between Merle and Matt, if you can kind of work at
wonderful.
getting that
Yeah.
out to everybody who couldn't be here today, that would be helpful. Don, let's go back to you.
No, that's right. So, I think the sheet's pretty self-explanatory. It was emailed to everybody on the whole entire team, and then, have the printouts that we brought along here. And just talk, and I kind of just assign people, if you're unhappy with who you're assigned with.
Pray about it. Openness to change.
I did try to think of maybe some people who might have connections, but I don't know everybody well. And it's kind of very flexible, and you can kind of make of it what you want, but the idea is that you'd be praying for each other intentionally daily or several times a week, and if you want to make more of it than that and talk to each other occasionally and actually share concerns, that's something that can be done, but it's only for those who want to.
And the idea is that we would kind of do this up until the October retreat. That's kind of the time frame. We're not saying this is forever and ever. But between now and October, if we could be praying for one another in this kind of thing, I think it would help build some spiritual unity among us. So now, before we get on to the brainstorming thing, we're about right on time, not far off. But I'm going to give Don an opportunity just to share any insights or any comments you want to make to the group. You're the newest guy here, and as a kind of outside person coming in.
Yeah,
I didn't tell you ahead of time.
Didn't know I was going to be doing
No.
that. So I don't think
You got nothing?
I don't think I will. I don't think I will.
So I wanted to give you opportunity.
You may never get another opportunity. Don.
You can.
I'm learning.
What is it they say at a wedding, speak now or forever hold your peace?
This chicken has a contemporary service.
Blended.
Blended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love blended.
And and where this goes in our worship experience, I don't know. I mean, more and more churches are not having traditional service. More are moving toward a blended or just straight out contemporary. So where does the future go for the Lancaster Church? I don't know. I would say our traditional service is still growing. And part of it is that we're kind of the odd bird out there these days. Other than Lititz and Lancaster, I'm not sure that the White Oak, I suppose, where you would have traditional worship anymore. It's just pretty much gone by
Well,
the
there's
wayside.
some out in my area, yeah.
No, I mean Church of the Brethren.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about
But
in
even
a
if
church.
they aren't church, they're fading.
Yeah, But in Church of the Brethern, you know, I mean,
Wow,
Chickies,
that's
Middle
interesting.
Creek has done really blended. I mean, they've got bands, and so does Chickies. I mean, these are considered the more conservative churches, but they've all gone that direction. Where it will shake out ultimately, you know, I look at traditional, it's growing, but it's also old people.
They're dying off.
Yeah, and not all old. I mean, there are some younger families that
That's
do
right,
attend
but
traditional.
I agree.
So I mean, it isn't totally one, and same with us, and we have older people that come to morning praise, you know, so it's not a totally gender, but mostly, I would say. So where does that say we're gonna go for the future? I don't know. Even in terms of Lincoln Family Life Center, I was just saying to somebody the other day, you know, if we say, well, this is gonna do us for the next 20 years, will we even have a traditional service in 20 years?
Yeah, what
Yeah.
does that mean for the,
Yeah, we may
for the
be
sanctuary?
the service,
Mhm.
you know.
Frank Fox has said
Frank has
said
said
that
has initiated,
multiple
yes.
times that he thinks in 20 to 30 years that
It's
we're gonna be the bigger
Yeah.
service.
Yeah, I just think that's the way
Some
things.
of us won't be around to know.
That's right. Oh, we might be, the age is
I don't
now 94.
But it's just interesting to
meeting,
see
I don't
the
wanna be here that
demographics
long.
and how
Yes.
things will play out. Of course, we can't look in the future, but on the other hand, I think we want to be ahead of the curve rather than behind it. So, I don't know what all that says.
How
but-
many people in contemporary actually belong to the church? Do we have a lot of people coming in that come in regularly but aren't members?
I think a good chunk of members. Yeah, I would say a pretty good chunk are. Yeah, majority, definitely. Well, and I'm hoping that, you know, the survey that we do will help maybe sharpen a little bit our focus. What are people looking for? What is it they appreciate? That could tell us a lot about kind of how we vision or revision.
I'm
things.
anxious to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to hear from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be it.
So anyway, that's kind of how we're gonna lay all this out. All right, we're gonna shift now and go to, if you wanna get your sheets, I think you all have that. Brainstorming.